Hi, welcome to Montana State of Mind with me, Montana. Jumped back into our original historical romance, our bodice ripper content after a month of spooky stories. And my God, once again, Penelope Neri has set the bar so high. So high. This is my favorite book we've done. This is going to probably be, in my opinion, the best one so far. The fact that Penelope Neri, her world building, her research, because she writes a lot of stories from different cultures, and the amount of respect and time and research she puts in to these little drugstore paperback novels. And the fact she's not a household name with Tolkien and like C.S. Lewis. I'm sorry, Mark Twain wrote about some teenage boys going down the river and doing fuck all, and Penelope Neri is not more widespread. It's a crime. It's a crime. After I tell you today's story, we will all gather in the streets as to why she doesn't have every award imaginable. But before we get into today's extremely complex and emotional story, I have to do some minor housekeeping here of just updating on my life because I want to talk about me. Real quick, like this necklace that I am wearing today, I went to an estate sale. I love going to estate sales. I love going to flea markets, thrift shops. It is a family tradition of just rifling through dead people's crap. And I saw this necklace, and it's one of those like 1990s grandkid necklaces where the kids all are like their birthstones and stuff, I think. Yeah, their heads are their birthstones. And I felt so bad. It was $8, and this home was obviously somebody's mother, grandmother, grandparent, because it was just rifled with every generation of kids' paraphernalia, books, movies, cassettes, everything from, the 60s, the 70s, 80s. This was obviously someone who really enjoyed their kids and grandkids. And I just felt so terrible that this freaking necklace, this grandbaby necklace, was going to, I don't know what was going to happen to her. And the power of that Meemaw in that home just took me over. And I said, you better buy that goddamn necklace. I don't know shit about this grandma. She could have been a bitch for all I know. But she obviously repped her grandkids. And I think her kids, because if this is her grandkids, she had a shit ton. I think these are like her kids and husbands and spouses and their kids. Which is funny because like there's this one over here by himself. So I guess he didn't have any kids. Anyways. So I am repping this Meemaw's grandbabies. She's so proud of me probably. She's probably like, you wear that necklace, girl, that you bought for $8. But I did. I feel so sentimental when I go to estate sales. It's just the mom in me. And I'm not saying you have to be a mom to feel bad, but like I just get sentimental because I think of my grandparents who have passed and all the crap I'm going to have to go through when my mom dies. Oh my God. Anyways, so I just like when I see personalized things or even like sewing projects that took a lot of time and effort, I end up buying them because I just feel so like sentimental. That was somebody's grandma that took time into that. I don't know. Anyway, so we're repping Meemaw's necklace today, whoever that Meemaw was. And at that estate sale, I got an amazing book I made a short about that we will talk at the end of this video. We will get to that later, but just know we have a very interesting book coming up after this one. So I wanted to do, because it is Native American Heritage Month, because Thanksgiving was obviously a little controversial. So we're trying to not get rid of Thanksgiving, but change the name of the game here and make it Native American Heritage Month, which I absolutely love. If you have read the book Braiding Sweetgrass, that is an amazing book. Cannot recommend it enough. for this month. What did Theo Vaughn say like during Native American Heritage Month? He was like, go to your Native friend, give him a gourd, say thank you. I don't know. But truly that. I wanted to do a story centered around a Native American character. Obviously, with these historical romance novels, we have the assumption and fear that these are going to be fetishized, you know, like white lady falls in love with big strapping Native American man and his savage ways, you know, or something like that. But through this channel, we have learned the amount of time and effort most of these authors put into the research. And this one is the absolute pinnacle. It is called Forever and Beyond. Is Penelope Neary alive? I don't even know. But to ask her, how much time are you investing in all of your novels? The amount of research before Google. So she was not just Wikipediaing and Googling like stuff Comanches did. She was like, I don't know if she went to the reserves and like literally talked to the individuals there to learn, to like just the time and effort. I cannot go into detail because it would take too long. And honestly, it's so complex. But I'm going to be bold and say, if you're interested in Comanche traditions and culture, this is not by any means, you know, the best representation. But I think for an uneducated white woman, it's a good opener. It's a good opener, you know? Now, also keep in mind, this is fictional. Although a lot of the day-to-day activities, the traditions, and the culture is accurate, it is still a work of fiction. And hey guys, I didn't write the damn thing. So if any of this information is false, which it might be, don't come for me. I didn't write it. Okay, I didn't write the thing. I just read it. But I think we learned with the first Penelope Neary novel, which was taking place in North Africa, and the amount of respect and time she gave those cultures, because she wasn't even like, I don't know, it's Egyptian shit, it's Middle Eastern, blah. She gave each culture up there, each language, time and effort. She gave the Islamic religion a lot of time and effort of those traditions. And so again, I would love to ask her research process of how many was she writing a year and how much time went into world building. Again, the fact that I cannot recommend this novel enough. The fact that this could never be a movie. I never want to see this muddled, watered down. This has to be a minimum 12 episode HBO series. That's the only way this could ever be brought to screen properly. Also, side tangent is I am back to my signature red hair. I know for a few months there, of course, when this channel picked up and more people were watching, my hair got so fucked up from box dye, because I'd been doing my hair since like COVID, as everyone did. And the box dye that I used crapped out on me. I don't know if I got a bad box or something, but it dyed my hair brown. And so I had to spend the next 3 months slowly lifting and tinting and lifting and tinting. And we are finally back to our original programming of me with my signature Daphne Blake hair. Okay. This is the house that Reba McEntire built. Please don't think that I change my hair color every month. I don't. I've just been on a journey of trying to get back to my flaming roots, of which when my hairdresser asked me, what shade of red would you like now that we can finally play with it a little bit more? And after, last week in certain events happened in the United States, I said, I want the most artificial, the most aggressively red shade you have. I want when men to see me from a distance to know I'm a motherfucking problem for them. Like Glorilla said, I'm a motherfucking problem. I'm 2 times 4. Okay. I want to, if people are to perceive me from a distance, let it be known with this flaming hair, I'm not the one to fucking play with right now. Especially if you are a man. And that's coming from a mother of 3 boys who is married to a man. No, absolutely not. Like I said, I'm aware that this is probably like a really aggressive shade of red, but I was just really feeling my emotions and just was like, I just want my hair to reflect how I feel with the level of anger right now in this political climate. Now, I had another Native book that I wanted to cover by Janelle Taylor, which we all know Janelle is a fucking mess. Janelle Taylor, now I see her name when I like look through these books and I'm like, oh, I know that book is gonna be a fucking mess in the best way. Like Janelle Taylor and Penelope Neri are probably my favorite authors of these novels so far. I'm really enjoying them. But anyways, it was a Janelle Taylor novel and I wanted to buy it and I bought it, and then eBay notified me like a week too late that it was refunded because they didn't have it. And anyways, and I can't order it now because it won't get in time for me to like read it, film this, edit. You get what I'm saying? So luckily, Forever and Beyond is such an amazing Native American centered story that I think it can hold November on its own. I think these 2 characters are more than happy to take the helm of being November's book by itself. So as these videos go, if you are new, is we discuss the cover and I will give a description. A lot of my audio listeners reminded me that not everybody is literally watching my fucking face on this video. So I will describe it, I promise. And then we usually go into fictional author lore, where we look at the picture of the author and we just make up a backstory, of which we have not done Penelope Neri. And I'm wondering if we should. I'm kind of enjoying that she is the mysterious entity that started this journey, you know? Like, I'm kind of loving the mystery behind Penelope Neri. Honestly, she probably wouldn't show up to the potluck because she's so busy researching her next novel. Truly. She wouldn't even be there. I'm going to probably skip Penelope Neri's fictional author lore because I like the mystery that we have put behind the best author that we have encountered so far. And then I will give my recap. So this cover is pretty, actually, now that I'm looking at it, okay, let me describe it and then I'll get into my critiques, Dev Montana. The background is this warm purple, like leaning towards the pink side of purple thunderstorm. There's pink bolts of lightning, pink canyons, and a purple sky. And then there is a almost crescent moon shape of a silver bracelet in the background. Like I said, it kind of looks like a moon. It's like half of a bracelet, and it's a silver bracelet with 4 small little circles of, there's supposed to be sapphires within this novel. So think of like 4 light blue circles of sapphires just delicately put on this silver bangle. Just a little cluster. It's a very simple minimalist design, but it's super cute. And then we have this rushing river at the bottom. Just a rushing, gushing river, a little waterfall. And I love it because you can see the paint strokes of the water. Again, these are always works of art. You can see the brush strokes the artist made to make the water. And I'm sure from an artist perspective, you could be like, well, it's really sloppy, because you can see it. And I just love the texture of it. I love to see the texture. We have Penelope Neri up top in this royal blue, Forever and Beyond down below, royal blue. highlighted with pink around it. And then the two main characters we have embracing behind this waterfall in front of this silver bangle crescent moon. Okay, so the man here, he is pulling the woman in. He is kissing her cheek. She has her hand reaching up on his neck, and his hand is on that hand. They are obviously embraced. Now, I will describe them first, and then I'm going to tell you like if this is accurate or not to the story. Okay, so the guy kind of looks like Matthew McConaughey with black hair. Like, he's giving Matthew McConaughey a little bit. I know he's supposed to be a native man, but that hair is way too short. But he's a leaner, athletic, bronzed man, strong nose. His eyes are closed. Couldn't tell you about him. Now, the woman here, the woman I love because she's got a full beat. These girls always have like a full face of makeup. So she is creamy white skin. It's always creamy, like milk. Very pale white woman. Her hair is a dark, ashy brown, cool toned brown. She has a cluster of little purple wildflowers tucked behind her ear. Her hair is just being whipped around from the wind of this storm and these gushing, rushing rivers. And she is wearing this banana yellow, really, I guess, it looks wet, like it's pressed to her skin as if she is wet. Again, they're in this river. But it's like this banana yellow, I don't know what you would call it. Like, it looks like a sundress, honestly. Like, it's just this little yellow dress. But it's meant to look probably like a buckskin, sexy Native American lingerie. I think that's what they were going for here, but honestly, it just looks like a little banana yellow negligee with like little ruffles around the sleeves. The sleeves are like a tank top sleeve, and there's like just a little, the hem is like a little ruffle. And then her makeup, she has got this pewter gray eyeshadow, these bold eyebrows. And her lip color, I'm going to say just a little rose lip, you know? And so again, she's given like 1980s beat here. Again, the big brown hair is being whipped, little purple flowers, gray eyeshadow, rosebud lips, yellow negligee that is pressed against her skin because of the water. Now, is this an accurate cover, just like cover for this novel? I think so. Obviously, this bangle is going to play a huge part with the sapphires. I don't think he represents who we will become to know as White Wolf. I don't really think he's kind of given what White Wolf is given in the character descriptions. Again, his hair is way too short. The main character girl is a white girl with brown hair. I just don't know how much gray eyeshadow and, you know, Burt's Bees lip tint they had back in the 1800s. But hey, it's an eye caption. Like, this is a lot. It sounds like so much going on. And it is. It's a very busy cover. It's a lot of elements here. And at first I was wondering, why do they have this rushing river like waterfall? There's no waterfall in this novel. And then now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh yeah, a lot of stuff does take place next to a river now that I'm recalling it. So not off. And then the thunderstorm, that's important. So probably one of our more accurate novel depictions. They never give the guys justice. And I know I talked about this with Desert Captive, another Penelope Neri novel, is I feel like they could not go full tilt with the men of color or even the women of color, because like Mexican Fire did this. I don't feel like they could go full tilt with these people of color on the covers because of how racist the 80s and 90s and stuff were. Because you couldn't have little Meemaw sitting in her little library reading something that had just like a full-blown black guy on the cover at the time. her husband would probably not take kindly to that, sadly. Again, I made the joke in the first video of this looks like Matthew McConaughey, and probably in the 80s and 90s, Matthew McConaughey absolutely would have been cast as a Native man. He would have been. With no qualms whatsoever. They would have been like, yep, cast that Texas boy as a Comanche. Absolutely. We'll dye his hair. That's all you need, right? I'm not going to do Penelope Neary's fictional author lore because I kind of just, maybe if y'all want me to, we totally can. I just feel like the vibe right now is she's so mysterious. I didn't even look up her picture. I don't know what she looks like. But again, if we're going to our fictional potluck that all these authors are going to, she's not even there. She had to go to the Smithsonian and pull out archives of artifacts so that she could properly write a historical romance that's going to be sold at a CVS for $4. Some trigger warnings and disclaimers, okay? Disclaimer, I'm not a professional reader. I'm not a professional voice actress. So don't come for me and my talents. I know I'm not an accurate portrayal of a grown Irish man. I got that. Okay, but we're having fun here. I'm going to do my best to trigger warn y'all because this novel in particular is extremely rough. Holy shit. Again, it is extremely historically accurate. My God. Now, I am going to not omit extremely graphic, violent scenes, but I'm not going to go into detail because if I say someone's murdered, I think y'all get the point. I don't think you necessarily need to know how they were murdered unless it is important to the plot. Same with sexual assault. If I say someone was sexually assaulted or raped, I think we get the gist of what happened. We don't need to go into detail. However, do know if you buy this book, it goes into extreme detail of murders, rapes, sexual assault, violence against children. It's a big read. And that's what also gets me is, so many men were like, oh, your mama's reading her little girly books. She's reading her little girly books. This shit is rough. I was reading it to my husband and he was like, Jesus Christ. That is awful, but it's historically accurate. Penelope Neary respects the history more than the romance. Now, again, trigger warnings, violence against children, sexual assault, all that good stuff. Again, I'm going to, give you a real big heads up so if I do have to describe something, I'll be like, hey, mute me for like 20 seconds. Count to 20 and then come back or skip or do whatever. I'm going to warn you as best I can. But please know going into this, I may miss some triggers that I didn't even know were triggers. Like, I don't know. And so if I say something that upsets you, just know that wasn't my intention. I'm really, really, really sorry. But this book is rough. So do know that going in. It's kind of like Little House on the Prairie, but R-rated. Now, this novel, of course, goes heavily into Native American and white colonization, white settler warfare. So please know, I am just reading this book. I am not trying to make commentary or opinions on history myself. I may say some things that are my personal opinion here and there, but again, I did not write this book. So if it is inaccurate, if it leans one way and not the other, if you don't agree with what is written, please don't take it up with me. Take it up with Miss Neary, because she does a very good job in this novel of depicting good and bad people from all ages, races, religions, as she does, like in Desert Captive. She does a very good job of being extremely progressive for her time and giving respect to just human beings being human beings. Everyone's war is justified in this novel to an extent. Everyone feels they are doing the right thing, but obviously we are going to be reading it in the future. And you kind of have to have that understanding of this was how things kind of played out back then. And there were pieces of shit in every way, shape, and form. And there were heroes in every way, shape, or form. So again, this is a very difficult book. I'm going to do my best to keep it light, keep it fun, keep it camp. But I did cry in my kitchen reading it because it was so amazing. Oh, I might cry when I tell y'all that part that made me cry. Oh, fuck. Okay, Montana. Without further ado, please get out your laundry, get out your nail polish, get out your crocheting, and let's get into Forever and Beyond by Penelope Neri. This video is probably going to be so long because so much happens. I'm gonna do the best I can. We open with a prologue, and the prologue is going to have a character named White Wolf, and I'm going to butcher some of these Native American terms, but I'm going to try. Loma Hongva, and he is a medicine man and White Wolf's uncle. Now, I'm going to refer to him as this medicine man because Loma Hongva is kind of a difficult name, and I feel like I'm saying it wrong. Anyways, White Wolf went out into the wild to receive a vision to save his wife and his child who are sick. The vision he sees is a silver hawk with a black beetle on its back. His wife's name is Bluebeads, and we'll get into why she's called Bluebeads. And this hawk and this beetle on its back will be how Bluebeads' spirit returns. Because at this time, his young son is sick with a fever, and his wife, at first I thought she had died as well, but no, it's kind of like a trauma response of she's just, her soul has left her body. Like she's just a shell of a woman because her child is sick. And he's trying to save them both. And so he goes and has this vision that this silver hawk with this black beetle on its back will carry Bluebeard's soul back to him. The medicine man, I like the detail that he had rattles made of white buffalo ballsack. And I was just like, that is super fun. I love that. The black beetle is interpreted to represent evil because in this vision, the black beetle is holding Bluebeads on the silver hawk and won't let her return to wolf. The medicine man goes on to say that Bluebeads will return because Bluebeads and White Wolf's lineage, their family, their future children, are going to be extremely important. Their lineage will unite tribes, will unite nations. He's like, you have to keep having babies with this woman because your kids will save kids, and y'all's family tree is going to be crazy important. So we have that. Open to chapter 1, Phoenix, Arizona, 1988. We have a woman named Kelly, a young woman named Kelly, and she is getting out of the airport to go see her friend Barbara. Kel and Barb, okay? And they're doing an airport reunion. Oh my goodness, I haven't seen you in years. And Kelly has been living in Europe for the past 3 years. She lived in England, and she has just recently come off of a divorce. And Barb is the closest thing she has to a sister because, of course, Kelly is an orphan. They never have any fucking family. If they do, it's two, a brother and a dad. But anyways, rarely any families in these novels. But she's an orphan, and Barb is the closest thing she has to a sister because Barb was part of her last foster family. So she kind of is a sister in a sense. And so Kelly is done with this divorce. She just came back from England, and she is going to stay with Barb until she can kind of stand on her own 2 feet and assimilate back into society because it was a rough divorce. We will get into it in a minute. Barb has a baby, and this is not important, but just the 1980s is her husband Bill is like, oh, you two girls catch up. But, I'll do the dishes, but I'm not doing diapers. I don't do diapers. And the girls are like, oh, Bill, that's women's work. Of course you wouldn't. To which I'm going to say, if you don't do diapers, don't have babies. That's kind of a big plot point in a baby. To which I love when people are like, I don't do babies, but then they have cats and dogs. And we all know cats and dogs vomit and shit way more than a child. They do it their whole lives almost. I have a basset hound and she throws up just because, okay, this is gross, but she regurgitates her food just because sometimes she just does it. I took her to the vet and paid $80 for him to tell me they just do that sometimes. I changed her food. I keep her from eating. I kind of have to put a muzzle on her when she's outside because basset hounds notoriously will just eat everything. They will eat rocks. They will eat sticks. And so she kept eating everything. And it was causing her to get sick. And so now I have to keep her from eating stuff. But then, if they eat too fast, if they run around after they eat. But she does it like in the middle of the night. I don't know, it's real weird. But the vet said she's fine. She's retaining weight. Just every once in a while, bleh. I literally keep Walmart bags next to my bed. And like she's a drunk girl in college, I just grab the bag and put it over her face and she just hurls in it and I take it to the trash. Oh, basset hounds are fun. Okay, Barb is a white lady, but she is super duper duper into Native American culture. And she owns a boutique in Arizona where she works with local artisans and Native American tribes, and she sells their wares for them, which is super cool. And she, of course, is super tight with a lot of these people. They're all super nice. You love to see it. You love to see people supporting people. Now, there's a man called Sam Cloud, and he is an older man, kind of a medicine man, if you will. Now, as Kelly, remember Kelly, she's the one that had the rough divorce. She meets Sam Cloud. They have some coffee. And as she's drinking the coffee, she's kind of seeing him as a younger version of himself with like traditional medicine man regalia. And she's like, what the fuck's in this coffee? But she's just having like some glitches of like, oh, whoa. I must be like super jet lagged. That's crazy. Grandpa Sam Cloud and baby Billy are so cute. That was my note. And it is really cute because Barb's like, oh, what do you see in his future? And she holds Billy, her little baby. And he's like, well, he won't be rich like in money, but he'll be rich in family. And isn't that more important? And Barb's just like, I guess. Now, Sam Cloud wants to, what is it called? I don't want to be inappropriate and be like, read her future, because that makes it sound like it's, just some like gimmick. But he wants to talk to Kelly and kind of look into her spirits, if you will. And she's against it because she sees it as, hocus pocus, tarot card reading, psychic crap. And she's like, yeah. Look, I'm just not super into it, Sam Cloud. I don't care. Anyways. And so he's kind of like calling her a chicken. Not really, but he's just like, I think you're afraid to look into your past. He brings up her divorce without ever talking to Barb about it. Like, he's just like, you got a divorce recently, right? And Kelly thinks that Barb told him. She's like, yeah, but I really don't want to talk about it. It was a really abusive relationship. I'm still kind of going through stuff. Can we literally talk about anything else? And he's like, well, he's not wrong, but at the same time, it is a fresh divorce. But anyways, he says essentially, you kind of have to acknowledge and talk about it in order to heal. Like, you have to look into your past if you want to have a future. And it's not wrong. And here's that excerpt. But we can't bury our past mistakes, child. However much we may want to. Don't you understand? They follow us. They become the burdens we must bear in future lives. Unless we understand them and deal with them. Don't be afraid, my daughter. If you'll only step backwards and remember how it was, it can be done. We have so little time left to us now, for there are only a few short weeks remaining until my people celebrate the rites of, I'm going to butcher this, woo chim. Then the gateway between past and present will close, and it will be too late to go back. Too late for the both of us. Look, my daughter, look into the face of Tawa, the sun, and remember, remember! Kelly heard the hypnotic drone of the old man's strained sing-song voice as if through a layer of batting. It sounded like rusty buzzing of 1,000 bees. Eyelids drooping, she found herself drawn against her will to look at the silver disc he cupped in his gnarled hand and the etching of a sun there. She couldn't look away. Then, the boutique was gone. The walls receded, like the walls of the haunted house at Disneyland, flying back and away. There were other walls surrounding her now, walls of stone, painted with ancient symbols. She could smell the scent of sage scattered on the flames of the fire, pungent and grassy, feel the warmth of the fire on her limbs. She lay on a hard rock floor, surrounded by paintings worked in lines of colored sand. And as she gazed up above her, she could see the frosty glimmer of stars through a narrow chimney that led to the heavens above. Hear the sounds of voices chanting in a muted heartbeat that was the throbbing of drums. And here we have I'm not going to sing it. I'm just going to recite it as if it was poetry. Past, present, and future, they are one, woven together in the cord of life. Grandmother, mother, daughter, woven together. No past without present, no future without past, no daughter without mother, without beginning, no end. And that is what Sam is chanting. Then there's only Sam's voice, the hypnotic voice of clouds standing, her guardian spirit sent from the... Ooh, shit. Hold on. I'm going to put this up. I'm not even going to attempt to probably say this word. The sky god. Loma Hongva, cloud standing, leading her down the paths of memory, leading her to the moment of her birth and beyond. And here, okay, the scene is, she's still in this boutique. It's not open, but like Barb standing there like, what the fuck is happening to Kelly? And Sam Cloud is kind of walking her through this hypnosis of her past life. And mentally, Kelly is now 6 years old and she's swinging her legs and she's talking like a little 6-year-old. Barb's kind of freaked out. Again, what's in that coffee? Sam Cloud asks, what is your name? And she says, hi, my name's Mary. And she gives her whole spiel of she is a little girl in like the 1800s, Little House on the Prairie kind of days. And she is one of 7. Her family is from Ireland. They're Irish settlers here near Arizona. And he asks her what, and this is weird because she's 6 years old, but he asks her, what happened on your 8th birthday, Mary? And I'm like, how does it, I don't understand hypnosis, past lives. It just sounds really complicated for a 6-year-old, past life of a 6-year-old to then ask what your 8th birthday was. Why didn't he just ask her when she was 8? So she recounts little Mary. Okay, this is Kelly. Remember, this is going to be complicated. There's a lot of time jumping. So I'm going to really lay it on thick of this is Kelly in the boutique. She is hypnotized into her past life, recounting her 8th birthday as little Mary, the Little House on the Prairie girl from the 1800s. It is Mary's birthday. Okay, she's turning 8. She has so many siblings. Her mom is so overworked and exhausted that it's kind of overlooked. No one remembers it's her birthday. And if you want to hear my opinions on Little House on the Prairie and the pioneer days and how white people love to make that like it's some ideal that we need to, quote, get back to, please go watch my first ever YouTube video. I don't have a microphone, but the information is there. I'm very proud of it. Anyways, no one remembers. But this little kid named Dane does. And she doesn't necessarily like Dane, but he's the only person that remembers it's her birthday. So she's like, I guess I'll hang out with you because you're the only person that's told me happy birthday. And he's like, oh, I got a surprise for you, Mary. Come with me. Come with me. And I never trust that. Ugh, don't ever trust that, Mary. He leads her to a barn and they go up to the loft. Nothing good comes from the loft of a barn. And his birthday surprise, of which poor little Mary is an 8-year-old girl. She thinks it's going to be a bunny. She thinks it's going to be a kitty. She thinks it's going to be a little dolly. This boy's 12. He pulls down his pants and shows his erect penis. And luckily Mary is like, what the fuck is that? And he is like, it's your birthday surprise. And he says, well, and she's of course just like, I don't want to see your small dick, Dane. And she kind of tells him that. She's like, it's small. And he's like, how would you know? And she's like, I have like 7 brothers. And it's just hilarious. This little 8-year-old girl is just like, put it away. And he's like, well, let me see yours. Let me see yours. I want to see yours. Please, 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 please. You know, and as gross as it is, kids, especially back then, kids are super weird about their bodies, which is why you have to teach body autonomy like super early. Because kids will be like, I'll show you yours if you show me mine, because they're curious and it's natural. However, a 12-year-old boy, no. He goes down to try to see hers and she breaks his nose. Yay, Mary. We fucking love little Mary. She punches him and breaks his fucking nose. And she's leaving the barn. And she's like, this is the worst fucking birthday ever. And as she is leaving, the alarms for an Apache attack are put off. I don't know what they had, but she's like, oh no, the bells are ringing. That means we are being attacked. And a small group of young Apache men are massacring this little establishment. I will not go into details, but this is a very graphic and violent chapter. And it fucking sucks to read. Without going into detail, her mother is dead. A lot of the townsfolk she grew up with, you know, a lot of people are dead. And this little 8-year-old is just running through the town, finding dead person after dead person in a very graphic way. They are not simply just stabbed. I can tell you that. Her brothers, she goes into her home and sees her, you know, mother that has passed away. Her mother had a sapphire necklace that was her only prized possession from Ireland that her mother had given her. Obviously, a lot of these poor pioneer people, they had like one really good thing. And that was the sapphire necklace that is now broken and all the sapphires are laying on the ground. And Mary grabs 2. She grabs 2 little sapphires. She doesn't know why. She just like panics and just grabs something. And she hears her twin siblings who are infants crying. And she's like, oh, you're alive. Bridget, Brian, you're alive. And she, oh God, fuck. It makes me tear up. Fuck. This poor little 8-year-old girl is going through the worst birthday of her life. And she is cradling her infant twin brother and sister. Doesn't know what to do. Doesn't know where her father is. Doesn't know if he's alive. Doesn't know who is alive, who is dead. And she's just hiding. And she's clutching these 2 sapphires. And this Apache warrior shows up in the house. And she is begging him, please, please don't hurt us. Please, 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 please. And she holds out the sapphires. And obviously this Apache man, he doesn't give a shit about 2 sapphires. He's like, what the fuck? But her eyes are so blue that the 2 sapphires look like her eyes. And so he's like, I'm going to take you. And so he pulls her by her hair. She puts the babies before he, you know, grabs her into this barrel to hide them. And she begs them, please, you know, these are babies. And she's like, please, please be quiet, you know. And he drags her by her hair, throws her on the horse. They're gone. And it fucking sucks to read because she is absolutely terrified. She can hear her little baby brother and sister crying in the house. And I'm just like, well, this is literally chapter 3. Fuck. She dubs her kidnapper Rattlesnake. Other women and children are also being kidnapped and taken away. They go out to the canyon in the desert, and the Apache warriors get drunk and awful things occur. I don't need to go into detail. Terrible things happen. As they are doing awful things to some of the other captives, she's like, I'm going to fucking run. And she sees I don't know what it's called, a group of cactus, a group of cacti, a bushel of cacti, a forest of cacti. And she's a little 8-year-old girl. So she's like, if I run real low, he can't catch me. Very much like in The Lion King when they're like running through those thorns from the hyenas, kind of that. And so she is, oh God, this poor girl is running through cacti. And she sees the cavalry the American cavalry. She sees the silver horn and hears it blaring. She sees them on the horizon. She is running through cacti to them. She's like, I'm going to be saved. And as she's about to clear out of the cacti, that Apache warrior grabs her again, throws her on the back of the horse. And it fucking sucks because, again, she was so close to being saved. And as the cavalry is cresting over the horizon, she's only getting taken farther away from her only savior, like, moment of being saved. And I'm just like, shit, this is fucking sad. Oh my God. The captain of the cavalry is the father of Dane, the little kid that showed his pecker to Mary. Dane was obviously massacred along with this captain's wife. And this captain's name is Captain McHenry. And he's going to come back later on. But Captain McHenry is absolutely hell-bent on murdering any Native American he sees for vengeance. We cut to Mary's father, Donovan. He comes home to probably the worst day of his life. And he sees the two twins in the barrel. And so he does save them. They will live. But he vows to find little Mary because he does not see her dead body. And so he's like, if I don't see her dead body, there's a chance she could be alive. Rattlesnake won't kill Mary. For some reason, she's the only captive that he has kept alive. He barely feeds her. Okay, trigger warning for some child, not violence, but just real shitty. So give me about 15 to 20 seconds if you want to mute me real quick. But he has her on a rawhide leash and she's naked. He hasn't sexually assaulted her. Don't worry. I say don't worry as if she's fine. No, but she's naked and she's on a rawhide leash so she won't run away, and he's starving her to an extent, and she's dirty, and it's just really like a really fucking awful, like, my God, this 8-year-old girl. And obviously through this trauma, she is shut down. She is a shell of a bean. She's just trying to survive. She is eating scraps. She is eating anything she can find. She's trying to drink any fucking water, pee, whatever it is. She's just trying to survive for some reason. However, she's kind of laying there one day and she's begging them to kill her. She's like, and this is so much for an 8-year-old. This 8-year-old girl is sitting there, dirty, naked. She's been through so much trauma and she is praying for death. And it's really powerful to read. However, nearby is a gang of, I don't want to say gang, a group of Comanche warriors. And they are herding ponies. And they notice this random group of Apache men. Now, do know this is not a tribe of Apaches. This is not an Apache settlement doing this. It's just like 4 guys. And they notice them. And one Comanche warrior in particular named White Wolf, he is 18. He notices this little white girl on this leash, just starving, has this look he recognizes because he himself was taken from his tribe. He is a native Hopi individual, but that he was traded to the Comanches when he was real young. And so he kind of understands the fear that she's probably feeling. And he's like, we got to get that little white girl. And here we have this excerpt. His people, the Comanche, are a little less forgiving of the White Eyes who were invading their sacred hunting grounds in droves and scaring away or slaughtering in great numbers the sacred buffalo in which their very lives depended, and ravaging the face of Mother Earth. And yet, children were seen precious in the eyes of his people, whose women seemed cursed by infertility and rarely were fortunate enough to give birth to more than one babe. Each new little life was considered a gift from the Great Spirit, one to be cherished. Accordingly, children, even the children of the enemy of White Eyes, were rarely killed when taken captive on a raid, unless the blood madness possessed the attackers or the children proved too young or too weak to survive the ride back to camp. Wolf thought of his father's sister, his favorite aunt Spotted Pony, and her empty arms and her empty lodge, and knew what he would do. Casting aside his bow and quiver, he nimbly clambered down over the boulders unhampered until he was on level with the unsuspecting Apache riders on the narrow path below. Biding his time, he waited until the last pony had passed him and ran lightly, swiftly, after it on his soundless moccasins. His knife raised and at the ready in his right hand, he boldly swept the child from the rump of her captor's mustang with his left, and holding her under his arm like a rolled bedrobe, he sprinted for cover. He'd not made a sound, and neither, to Wolf's surprise, had the child. So swiftly and silently did he act, it was several heartbeats before Rattlesnake realized that the little hands which clung so desperately to his waist for 7 sleeps had now suddenly released his belt. With a snarl, Rattlesnake twisted around to discover where she'd gone, barking in his Apache tongue, "You, Bluebeard's girl, where are you?" And it was as if the spirit had snatched up the she-cub and vanished. But in the same moment that Rattlesnake shouted in alarm, White Wolf's companions swept full tilt down the canyon and attacked, their feathered lances raised, their arrows knocked, their wild whoops filling the air. So these Comanche warriors get rid of the Apache guys, if you will. And now White Wolf, this like 18-year-old guy, has this like little 8-year-old white girl who's starving, traumatized. And his friends are kind of like, she's kind of young to like be taken as a bride, you know, White Wolf, like she's a little young. And he's like, I don't want to like, you know, fuck her. I'm going to give her to my aunt. My aunt doesn't have babies, so I'm going to give her to my aunt. Like, okay. And his friends have the good point of like, okay, look, we can't take in every little white kid that we see. We are not the midwives of white people, okay? Like, we understand you're trying to be nice, but we are not the babysitters of all of these little white kids. Like, it's not our job. Which, not wrong. But in the same vein, you know, White Wolf's like, oh, please, it's just this one little white girl, please. And his friends are like, so you're going to give this little white girl to your aunt to raise as your wife? Like she's going to raise your future wife? That's kind of like, I mean, I guess. And it's kind of gross. And it made me kind of roll my eyes of like, well, men suck everywhere. We open to chapter 5, which is a Sundance ceremony. 8 years have passed and Mary is now Bluebeads. And she's called Bluebeads because she had those 2 sapphires and they match her 2 blue eyes. And so they call her Bluebeads. She is asked to chop down a sacred cottonwood for the ceremony, which, without going into extreme detail of Penelope Nary's research, it is an honor and it's a ritual of the maidens have to chop down a cottonwood that the men find, and it's a thing. Okay. I won't get into it though. And it's a really big honor. So her foster family, remember Spotted Pony, and her husband are super proud of their little Bluebeads. And I love this because Bluebeads and her like little girlfriends are like, you know, gossiping and like, they're just excited girls about to do this community thing. And you know how girls are like, oh my God, like, what are you going to wear? Okay, I'm going to do this with my hair. And Bluebeads is so excited because White Wolf might be there. He has been away doing Comanche warrior shit. And the men are supposed to put a red handprint on the tree. And she's so excited because she's like, what if he does that? Because I think, looking back, I think that means like they're all eligible to like marry each other, you know? She is talking to her girlfriends and she sees his spotted Mustang called None Swifter. And it's kind of the equivalent of when you're grown up a little bit, you're gone through your puberty, you've got your boobies, you're into boys now, and you haven't seen like your little childhood, like the lifeguard from the pool that saved you one time, and you like had such a crush on him, and he's been away at like college for a few years, and he's back in town, and you spot his car, and you're like, oh my God, is that Wolf? Is he in town? And they're like, yeah, girl, he just came back today. And you're like, fuck, I gotta go do my hair. It's so cute, and it just made me realize like girlhood is so universal. Like we all have our little crushes and we're all like giggling, and her like, it's so sweet, her little girlfriends and her. However, her mom, now this is universal too, of a mom has the best intentions, trying to help, kind of fucks it up. Her mom, Spotted Pony, thinks that Bluebeads is into a man named Broken Claw. Broken Claw and White Wolf are best friends, raised like brothers, you know, besties. And because Bluebeads is looking at like White Wolf and his horse, it looks, because he's always next to Broken Claw. So her mom's like, oh, she's into Broken Claw. I'll help you out, girl. And we will see later on, that's not helpful at all. White Wolf and Broken Claw are racing horses, and Broken Claw mentions like, hey, Blue Beads has really grown up. She's super hot. I want her as a wife. And Wolf is like, Blue Beads, that little girl? And he notices her in the village, and he's like, oh, she has grown up. I want her too. And so they're kind of like, White Wolf's like, okay, like, I guess you called first dibs. And so he's like, but I want Blue Beads. And it cuts to White Wolf is at a stream doing whatever he does at streams, looking off into the distance with an air of mystery. And Blue Beads shows up because she can't find her medicine bag. She's like, hey, like quite the little mute cute of just, hey, Wolf, do you remember me? I'm that little white girl you saved 8 years ago. I am looking for my mom's purse. Have you seen it? I could have sworn I threw it over here. And they check each other out. And the picture Miss Neri paints, my God, it feels like you're there. It feels like you're there. And I will give you some of that. Like, this goes on for pages, but I'm just going to like kind of give you some of the excerpts that I liked. He was very handsome, she saw, even more handsome than her memories had painted him. His long blue-black hair fell thick and glossy to his shoulders, and his scalp lock was bound in otter fur and adorned with the single white down feather of an eagle, the symbol of the breath of life. Indeed, everything about him shouted life, vigor, strength, beauty. His features were strong and sculpted. His alkaline nose was bracketed by the jut of high cheekbones and a firm chin that gave his face a pleasing arrogance. His lips were slim and chiseled, sensual lips, with an intriguing hint of cruelty to them that his warm smile fiercely bellied. His torso was naked, save for the deerskin medicine bundle at his throat. Muscle and cord rippled across his shoulders and down his back in a fluid shimmy as he flexed his powerful arms, the upper portions of which were bound with slim bands of rawhide, hung with more eagle feathers and beads. His chest was dark from the sun and gleamed as if oiled. A residue of sweat from the race he'd ridden in the effort of rubbing down 2 ponies still clung to him. Somehow, those tiny beads clinging to that gleaming, powerful body fascinated her. 2 terrible scars marred his smooth, beautiful chest, proud reminders of his own sun-gazing several years before, she noted, proud of his courage. So, like, whoo! If I was how old is she? She's like 16 or something. Girl, I'd be all about that too. I'd be like, oh my God, White Wolf's in town? Let me go find my medicine bag. Like, I can imagine her just like chunking that medicine bag, like where he's, rinsing off, and just being like, whoopsie poopsie. And I feel like we all collectively are having that moment in Pocahontas, Disney's Pocahontas, where, we're looking at Coco and then John Smith shows up and we're just like, him? Girl, look what you got at home. We got husbands at home. So they kind of like check each other out. And as she leaves, because he's hitting on her, and she's just like, I'll see you at the dance, And as she leaves, he feels a shudder. And he's like, ooh, maybe I don't need to go after Blue Beads, because like Broken Claw wants her. Bros before hoes is universal. Huge party. Beads and Wolf are totally eye-fucking each other from across the fire. I mean, it reminds me again of, I don't know if you've watched Walk Hard, the story of Dewey Cox, but like John C. Reilly and Jeanette Fisher just licking the shit out of those ice cream cones, staring at each other. It's like kind of giving that, like, they're just eye-fucking each other. Woo! Spotted Pony, her foster mom. Again, she thinks she's fucking helping. And she's like, oh my God, look at because Broken Claw. Okay. So imagine like White Wolf is at the campfire, I fucking Blue Beads, but Broken Claw's like right next to him. Also, I fucking Blue Beads, but like Broken Claw thinks that Blue Beads is looking at him too. Like, it's that thing of when someone's waving and you think they're waving at you and you wave and they're waving at someone behind you. Very that. Spotted Pony thinks that Bluebees is eyeing Broken Claw because he's right next to White Wolf. And she's like, oh God, this girl, I've got to help my daughter out. I've got to help her get her man. And you're just like, no, please don't. Oh no. The next day, the girls do the cottonwood tree thing, fabulous gifts, amazing. Again, the research Penelope Neri put into this ceremony and the respect, it's insane. And Bluebeads she's of course, as a white girl that is taken into this native tribe, aware of her whiteness. And she's like, I really hope I do this correctly and people are proud of me. And the whole tribe is so proud of her. And even Broken Claw, he's kind of like Cocoam, again, very stern warrior. And even he gives her like a little approving nod of like, you did good, white girl. And she's like, oh my God, everybody's so happy with me. I did it. She goes home with all her gifts. It's been an amazing day. She thinks that Wolf is going to propose to her that night because she sees meat being cooked outside of her family home. And that's like a proposal thing of the man is supposed to bring food to the family to prove that he is a good provider. And there's also this thing with this flute. I forgot, but there's a thing with a flute that's being played in the woods. And again, she thinks it's White Wolf doing all this stuff. And we both know it's not. She goes to get some water and she finds White Wolf down by the river. This man, I guess, just hangs out by the river. That's kind of like the place to be. We have a very steamy scene of they are so horny for each other and they're making out and they're just fondling things. But he calms himself down as a gentleman and says, I don't want you as a plaything, little girl. I want you as the mother of my children. And she's like, oh my God, yes. And so they kind of like, he technically proposes to her, just not in the traditional way. And so she's like, oh my God, yes, I will be the mother of your children. She goes home and they have the proper marriage meeting with the parents, and everything's going great. She's so excited. But then, as it is that her foster dad's like, well, everything's set. The paperwork's good. We will get you wed to Broken Claw, girl. And she's like, what? No. It's supposed to be White Wolf. Mom, you saw me. Like, it's White Wolf. And her mom's like, what? I thought it was Broken Claw. And so they have that miscommunication and like a rom-com, if you will, of just like, no, it's White Wolf, Mom. Like, have you not been fucking listening to me? Are you fucking kidding me? And so her dad is like, well, it doesn't fucking matter because you're a little girl and you'll change your mind all the time. Like, you just need a good provider. It doesn't matter. And of course, we have the teenage girl. And again, this is such a universal experience. The teenage girl crying, saying, I won't marry him. You can't make me. And she runs out of the teepee. And she runs into Broken Claw, and he has been pacing nervously back and forth outside of the lodge. And you feel so bad for him because he's like, oh my God, you are so nervous and excited. You came out to see me. I'm so excited for us to get married. I care about you so much. And she's like, no, you freaking loser. And he kind of gets mad, obviously. And he's like, I've been doing all of the right things. I have been doing the flute thing. I've been bringing your dad meat. I gave him ponies. What do you want me to do? We've been staring at each other all week. And she's like, I'm not staring at you, you fucking idiot. I'm staring at your friend. But you feel bad for him at first. But then we kind of see like Broken Claw's like doesn't have a good temper. And here we have this excerpt. Broken Claw was pacing outside their lodge. She almost ran into him in her haste to escape, to be anywhere but there. His brown, almost black eyes lit up when he saw her, mistaking her breathlessness for eagerness to see him, rather than anxiety to escape her father's lodge. Is it agreed so swiftly then, Storm Eyes? He bantered, grinning broadly with pleasure. When have the old ones decided you're to become my woman? He asked, his eyes shining with love for her, and no little desire. Never, she told him hoarsely, bluntly, tears streaking down her face. It is another man I love. My heart cries out to belong to him, not you. I'm sorry if you thought otherwise. What? Broken Claw growled, stepping forward, gripping her by her upper arm. His expression was ugly now in the patchy gray light, and his fingers bit cruelly into her tender flesh so that she yelped in surprise and pain. "What is this you say, woman?" he sneered. "That you'll never become my woman? Huh, but I say you will. I will not permit you to ridicule me before everyone by scorning my offer of marriage. The gossips have whispered all over our camp of how Broken Claw played the flute for you, like one of our lovesick coyote brothers who yips at the moon." "It was you who played the flute," she whispered. "It was. And many know of the deer meat I left as a courtship gift before your lodge, too. Bashful to make myself known to you. Clacking tongues have already spread word that tonight the parents of Broken Claw come to ask a special someone to be his wife. I say you will be my woman," he insisted, shaking her roughly as if by doing so he could shake reason into her. His eyes blazed with the dark fires of polished jet in his anger, and in the murky light his face was that of a hateful stranger who frightened her. "And as my woman, you will soon forget this tricky weasel who's blinded your eyes to one who only loves you." "No," she argued, shaking her head. "Forgive me, but I'll never forget him. Never. I cannot. I've loved him too long." "Who is he then? Tell me," Broken Claw demanded. "What is his name?" "I cannot. You'd kill him," she whispered. And she knew it was no lie. With that, she jerked herself free of his punishing grip on her arm and fled through the Comanche encampment, leaving a seething Broken Claw staring after her, his expression murderous, his black eyes deadly with purpose in the starlight. Before this moon grew old, he would discover this other one's name, Broken Claw swore, his heart curdling with hatred and the bitter bile of jealousy. With his brother White Wolf at his side, he would track his rival down and bloody his knife on a weasel's heart. Oh my God, miscommunication, fuck. Okay, but it's kind of cute that like this is such a, if you will, again, universal thing. Like this is such a trope, and I just love that it probably did happen in a tribe and stuff. Like little girls we're just gonna fall in love so hard. So Bluebeads runs to a friend's house and she's like, "Tell Wolf to meet me again by the river." She's like, "Tell him to meet me where we meet. Please, I have to talk to him." And her friend's like, "Okay." Wolf and Beads meet up. Obviously tears are shed. Wolf decides it is hoes before bros. He wants Bluebeads. Fuck Broken Claw. And he decides that they will run away until things cool down because her father has too much pride to admit like, "Oh, we went through all of this and that's not the man you want." So again, pride at the end of the day will ruin everyone's lives. Just say, "Whoopsie poopsie, she met your friend Broken Claw. I'm sorry, it didn't work out." Little girls, they like, if I was her dad, I would have been like, "Oh, little girls, they don't know what they want. Just let her have him." Obviously, she's like, flip-floppy. You don't want a wife like that. Like, I would have spun it to like stroke, God forbid, Broken Claw's ego and to be like, "You don't want her. She's too childish. Look at how she's handling the situation." Like, no, you don't want my crazy daughter. There's a way to work around these things. Anyways, as they are leaving, they meet up with Spotted Pony, her mom. Obviously, her mom is like, "I am so sorry. I was trying to help you, baby girl. I didn't know you wanted my nephew." Because remember, White Wolf's her nephew. And she's like, "I didn't know you wanted him." Because he's kind of like a womanizer. White Wolf's kind of like the town tart. And she's like, "I didn't know you wanted him. Like, he's kind of gotten around, but okay." And Spotted Pony gives the advice of come back pregnant. If you come back pregnant, it's already done. Your dad can't get mad at you. It'll be fine. To which I'm like, don't do that now, please. If any young people are don't do that. Don't come back pregnant. But in their mindset, she's just like, come back pregnant and he can't say no. It's already been done. And so Wolf, of course, is just like done and done. They run away and they make their little lodge and it's super cozy and cute. They're, I guess, newlyweds, I guess. And here we have the taking of the virginity scene. And I guess all of these girls in these novels are going to be virgins, to be historically accurate, now that I'm thinking about it. I've read so many virginity taking scenes. I feel like I've lived through so many. But I guess Well, no, because in Mexican Fire, she wasn't a virgin. She was a widow. So, no, I guess not. But it is common. And boy, is it a scene. It is beautifully written. Again, Penelope Neri paints a picture. I felt like I was being caressed. I felt like I could feel the pain of my hymen breaking. But truly, like Penelope Neri, the way Tolkien writes and world builds, Penelope Neri is the female equivalent. She's going to tell you what the sweat smells like. She's going to tell you what the taste is like. She's going to immerse you into the dirt that your back is laying on and like the fingers up your thighs, like book talk. Okay, real quick. If the girls who read the book talk romance novels are panicking over the scenes that are depicted in those books, they don't need to be reading these. Their minds would explode. These books are for mature women who have been around the block. These are for the Blanche Devereaux that can handle a very steamy scene. Like, wow. If this is the literature that you cut your teeth on when you're a young teenager, whoo, God bless you. He's very thoughtful because he's very gentle with her, because he's like, if she hates having sex with me and is experiencing pain, she's not going to want to have sex anymore. So he has that mindset of like, I've got to make sure her needs are met so that she'll come back. And so of course he makes sure that her needs are met first. Very, very considerate. And here we cut to, boop, we snap back to Kelly. Remember, in Arizona in this boutique, this has all been Kelly, eyes rolled in the back of her head, recounting all of this. She wakes up. She snaps out of the hypnosis. She's pissed. She's so fucking pissed. But she's like, no. This is just jet lag. That was a crazy dream. I'm just super tired from flying. Just jet lag. Totally not experiencing a past life whatsoever. and sweet little Barb, she's just like, Kelly, you are an amazing storyteller. You should write a book. You should write a historical romance novel. So it's kind of an inception of just like the wink and the wink. They go to lunch, Kelly and Barb. They go to lunch because I would imagine she's starving after reliving all of that. And they discuss the divorce. Okay. Trigger warning for domestic violence. I'm not going to go into detail, but her ex-husband's name is Tony, and he was in the Air Force. Tony and her were sent to Europe. How lucky. They were sent to Europe, and everything was fine. She had the little cottage from The Holiday. She was living every woman's little dream. But then she was like, she didn't work, and she didn't have kids. So she's kind of getting a little cabin fevery, and she would drive around to all the little shops and the libraries and stuff. But then she was experiencing car trouble. And Tony kept putting it off. He's like, well, you don't really need a car. Where are you going to go? There's nowhere for you to go. So you're fine. We don't need a car. And of course, every woman here is kind of like red flagging, just like, no, you should have a car. You should have a car that works. And Tony gets paranoid, and he starts, when they are out shopping, when they are out and about town, when there are maintenance men that are in and out the house, he thinks that Kelly is cheating on him. And it just keeps happening of like, they're out in the grocery store, and she like, says like, thank you to a guy who opens the door for her. And he's like, oh, you want to fuck him? Is that it? In front of me? You're really going to openly flirt in front of me? And there is this one instance where like a maintenance man or a newspaper boy, someone who has to come to every house on the street, comes to the house and is like doing whatever, like dropping off the paper or whatever. And Kelly's like, oh, thank you, And Tony thinks that that person and her were sleeping together, and that guy is leaving the house. He thinks he caught her red-handed, and he physically abuses her, and it's super duper awful. As someone who experienced that in their first marriage, it was super tough to read. So that's why I'm not going to go into super deep detail, but it also was relieving for me in a way. It was sad, but I'm just kind of like, well, sadly, this is such a common experience. And I think reading and sharing those stories helps the sisterhood that we experience, like helps everybody kind of understand, like, you're not alone. And shitty things happen to good people. even in marriage. And marriage is super tough and, all that good thing. So I just want to say, like, as someone who experienced literally the exact same thing in their first marriage, it was pretty grounding to read. Again, I was not expecting it in a historical romance novel, but here we are. And here, I'm going to read that scene. Now, it's not graphic. I don't think it warrants a trigger warning necessarily. There's not like extreme violence it doesn't go into. But I do want to read kind of the last instance she had with Tony, because I do find it important. Afraid so. You see, it all came down to a head one night after we had been to a dinner party at the base officers club. It was a farewell party for one of the pilots who worked with Tony. It was a lovely dinner, nice people. I really thought I could get to be friends with a couple of the wives, but then Tony insisted we leave early, and I knew as I watched him driving home that I hadn't misread the black looks he'd been giving me all evening. The minute we got inside the house, he started in on my dress. It was too revealing, according to him. I did just one glass of white wine with dinner, just one, but he said I drank too much, and he called me a lush, and when we made our strained goodbyes, I'd wish the guest of honor good luck on his new assignment, but Tony had misinterpreted that as a come on and insisted that we plan to get together while Tony was at work. Oh, the list of crazy things he said that night is endless. I knew then that he was really sick. He had to be, and that I should just be quiet and wait till he calmed down and get myself out of there as soon as possible. But I couldn't just stand there and take his abuse or let his sick accusations go unanswered any longer. Something inside me snapped, Barb. I just snapped. I started screaming at him, and all the misery and anger and hurt of the past months coming out of me at once. He looked at me with this weird, glassy expression and said in this sort of stilted voice, "You will be silent, woman. You will not scorn me again. I've never forgotten what he said. It sounded like an old line from some movie. Anyways, he lunged at me, and the next thing I knew, I was waking up in the base hospital with a nice concussion and a mother or father of all headaches, plus assorted scratches and bruises and all that. The neighbors had heard the ruckus and screaming, apparently, and called the police, luckily for me. They said he meant to kill me, Barb. Oh, Lord, thank God they heard you and helped. What happened to him? Tony? Oh, Tony was put in the hospital too. The emotional disturbed ward, as it turned out, though the medics call it the cracker factory. When I was well enough to handle it, the doctors came and told me Tony had had a complete breakdown in their opinion. He had been diagnosed as suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, claiming he'd lived before as a Comanche warrior chief, one nurse told me in confidence. You name it, Tony had it with the bells on, according to the shrinks. They suggested that I seriously consider starting a new life alone. I knew they were trying to tell me they were convinced Tony'd never completely recover from his illness, but by that time, I didn't need their suggestions. I knew I wanted out of this nightmare. And you never saw Tony after that night? Once, I decided to do the decent thing and tell him face to face that I was divorcing him, rather than having the papers served on him without warning. That was a bad mistake on my part. The minute I walked into his room, he reacted violently and ranting and raving that I had betrayed him. They finally calmed him down, but he wouldn't stop insisting that he loved me, crying and begging me not to go, asking me to wait for him. In the end, I promised I would. I left, and I never looked back. I've never saw him again. She took a long, thoughtful sip of her wine. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. So Barb tries to lighten the mood. Oh. And she's like, I think you should meet other people, like, try to get back out there in like a not committed kind of way, which is good intentions. And she's like, I know a guy that you're just going to love named Devin. And a few weeks later, Devin comes over for dinner. They have charades. Great time. And Barb's like, Kelly, tell him about all that Comanche story stuff. Tell him about that. It's so good, Devin. She's such a talented storyteller. And Kelly's like, I don't remember. It was just jet lag. It was just a dream. It's fine. And then we cut to Kelly is having a dream. She's kind of going back in the past. And so we cut to the next chapter with Beads and Wolf, and they are enjoying being newlyweds. She is pregnant. Yay. They both work really hard, and Penelope Neri goes into the details of their day-to-day life for a chapter or two. Extremely detailed. It sounds extremely exhausting. I know everybody wants to live off the land and live remotely. Y'all, it's fucking hard. Don't do that to yourselves. Don't. There's a reason humans collect together in tribes and communities, is because it takes a group effort to survive, especially out in nature. And Beads and Wolf are luckily super good at that. So I think they're the rare exception. But it's a lot of fucking work, especially for a pregnant woman. My God. White Wolf has a herd of about 30 mares. So I don't know if it's a Comanche thing, but his tribe especially kind of specializes in wild horses and gathering herding wild horses, and they're, raising them. So he has like 30, to which I'm like, that is insane to be in the wilderness with like 30 horses. We cut to a point of view of Captain McHenry, and he shows up on all these fucking horses, and he's like, there must be a Comanche around. This is kind of their thing. And he's like, let's go find where that is, like, establishment is. And he comes upon the modest lodge of just Blue Beads and Wolf, and he's like, okay, it's obviously just a couple. It's just a lone, secluded unit. He and his scouts kind of look around, make sure that the man of the house is away, and they notice Blue Beads washing in the river. And of course, she's fucking naked. But they notice that obviously that is a white lady. And they're like, oh my God, a white lady being raised as a Comanche? Jackpot. She's going to be worth a shit ton of money. As they sneak up on her, her horse named Badger tries to warn her, starts whinnying, pawing, freaking out, but she's tethered to their lodge, and so she can't go tell her or protect her. So the poor horse is whinnying and trying, but it's too late, and Blue Beads is snatched up. She fights like a hellcat. She gives it her all, but this is also a woman against like 3 men, and McHenry knocks her unconscious. One of the men makes the important observation of, hey, Captain McHenry, so she's super well fed and, I hate to say it, but like groomed, like she looks healthy. This is obviously somebody, like this is obviously a wife to somebody. This is obviously a member of their tribe. This is not a captive. This is not a slave situation. She's obviously cared for. I don't know if we need to be taking her, because we're kind of incurring the wrath of the Comanches if we do. And it's only like the 3 of us, which is very smart. It's don't take the bear cub, because then the mama bear is going to come after you situation. But McHenry, remember, is so hell-bent on revenge against pretty much any Native American he runs across. He's like, no, don't you understand? This is Donovan's daughter that he has been looking for years. And the sidekicks are like, what do you mean? And he pulls the pouch off of her neck and reveals the 2 sapphires. And he says, these belong to Donovan's wife. She had a sapphire necklace. These belong to them. This is Mary. And obviously at the closing end of this chapter, White Wolf comes home from his hunt. Can't find his wife. Luckily, he's an amazing tracker, and it does not take long for him to understand what happened. The sidekick tries to sexually assault Blue Beads as she is tied up at night in the lodging. Like, McHenry keeps telling the men, like, don't fucking touch her. That's Donovan's daughter. Don't fucking touch her. But men will be men, and one of them does try to sexually assault her. And right before he gets to it, an arrow in the neck. White Wolf has shown up. Yay. Thank God. In the rescue, White Wolf is shot himself. They do make it out. They do get back home. But White Wolf has obviously suffered from a gunshot wound. I liked the detail that Blue Beads puts cobwebs in his wound to help mend it. I thought that was really smart. Again, the ingenuity our ancestors had back in the day, especially Native American ancestors. You're just like, of course. But anyways, she puts cobwebs because they're clean, to help mend the wound and make the healing process quicker. However, he is suffering from a huge fever. She's trying to get him to sweat out the fever. He's delirious. He's kind of going in and out of consciousness. And a white wolf shows up outside of their lodge. And Blue Beads begs the white wolf to let her husband live. She says, please don't take him. I'm not ready. We're not ready. We just got started on our journey. I have a baby in my belly. Please don't do this to me. Please, Brother White Wolf, please let my husband live. Kind of reminds me of that scene in Balto where that wolf shows up and they howl. His fever breaks. It's a miracle. But something's not right. He's angry. And they have a huge fight because, they're both right in this argument. But much like a lot of couples, the way it's communicated is what causes the fight. It's never necessarily like the subject matter. It's the way it's worded and the tone. He's pissed at her for getting caught. To which she's like, are you fucking kidding me? And he has a good point when he says, you are a Comanche woman. How fucking stupid are you to go bathing in a river by yourself with absolutely no means of protection? Really, Blue Beads? Really? I leave you to go hunt and you go take your bath and you don't bring so much as a fucking knife with you? I have to leave. I can't leave you if you're going to get... And he brings up the point. He doesn't bring up like the kidnappers necessarily, but he's like, what if a cougar showed up? What if a bear showed up? What if a snake bit you? Like, there's so much more. We're in the wild and you're being a fucking naive child. To which she's kind of like, well, I am a child. But she also has the good point of, whoa, I was just kidnapped and sexually assaulted and you're victim blaming me? Really? Again, they are both correct in their emotions. They are both speaking out of fear. They are both speaking, again, my therapist she taught me that anger is a secondary emotion. You have to address the first emotion. And right here is fear. Like, White Wolf was obviously terrified he was about to lose his wife, so he's angry. Blue Beads was terrified she was about to die, so she's angry. Like, you have to address the first emotions, and then we can work through this, because they're both right. She gives him the silent treatment for about 10 days, and that means no sexy time. And he obviously, it's been 10 days, guys. He's a man. He has to have his wife. It's been 10 days. So he thinks it's going to be a good idea that when she is bathing in the river to sneak up on her and, take her then. To which I'm like, that's not super playful nor sexy to pretty much reenact the kidnapping she just had like 11 days ago. Kind of not super sensitive to her trauma, Wolf. But anyways, she is bathing and he sneaks up on her, but hey, she listened to him and she starts throwing big nasty rocks at him. And he's like, what the fuck, Blue Beads? Ow. And she's like, well, you told me to like fight back, so I'm fighting back, asshole. He obviously overtakes her. And at first it starts a little sexual assaulty. Like, you're like, oh no, is she? Because she's like, no, stop, get off. But then it turns into kind of, I think this is a new kink for them. Because like, without going into detail, like she's fighting him, but then she's kind of like fighting him in a kinky way. Like, I think they're both so angry at each other, but they're both so horny for each other that it's one of those sex scenes, if you will, of he's just like, you dirty little girl, and she's like, oh no, stop. Like, when you read it, you're kind of like, oh no, like she obviously doesn't want it. And then you're like, oh no, she's into this. I think this is like a new role-playing thing for them. So if you're into that kink, that's included in this novel. They air their grievances and she makes her pregnancy announcement. Yay! They have a post-sex discussion, which are always the best discussions. They are laying there post-sex and we learn the origin of White Wolf's name. So when he was 12 and he was going on his man journey, he ran into a white wolf and he noticed that the white wolf was a part of a pack, but not really. Like it was in their vicinity and it would go where they went, but they did not include it in their like wolf activities. And he kind of felt like that wolf because remember, he's not a native Comanche. He was traded when he was very young. And so he always felt like an outsider. And then another wolf pack shows up and they start fighting over the carcass of a big deer or something. And there's more than enough meat for both wolf packs. However, instead of just sharing and not killing each other, they would rather kill each other so that the other can't have it, which is supposed to be an allegory to kind of how humans with war, of there's more than enough. If we work together, we can achieve more without losing any life, but instead we're too worried about what the others have and preventing them from having it. If I can't have it, you can't have it. And the medicine man interprets that as you are obviously like this white wolf. You feel very secluded from your own brothers. And much like that white wolf, you will be a great leader that cannot stop war. You just can't. And so Wolf's like, oh, what a bummer. Like I'm supposed to be a leader, but then no one's going to listen to me. Like what the fuck is that supposed to mean? But again, his family lineage is what's important. And it's very important for him to have children, and his children are the important people who are going to unite tribes. And the medicine man goes into detail about one day our tribes are going to dwindle. Our brothers from all across the world are going to dwindle into small numbers. And we have to work together in order to survive. And obviously in a modern context, you're like, correct. Boy, did they dwindle. They talk about the pregnancy and White Wolf says, it is time to return to our tribe because, and he makes the thing of, you're a woman, you cannot go through pregnancy without the help of other women. And I feel like a lot of millennial women are just like, right? Because we just, without going into it, we just don't have our communities like we used to. We don't have our tribes. We are out here giving birth alone and raising children alone, and we're not supposed to. And I think that it's not what causes postpartum depression, but I do think that's kind of what leads to it is we are alone. Our spouses, our partners do the best they can, but it's more than a one-person job. It's more than a two-person job. It's a community, tribal, whatever you want to call it, job. And so when he pointed out that as a pregnant woman, she needed her sister, she needed her mother, she needed her aunts around. And as someone who has gone through pregnancies alone, I was kind of like, it made me feel real bad. And also, that's not a dig at my family or my in-laws. They won't watch this at all, but just to put it in the ether, it wasn't a dig at them necessarily because people have jobs and mother-in-laws and mothers just can't take off a month of work to go take care of their daughters or granddaughters because of our economy, because of capitalism. Like, again, I could go into how capitalism has destroyed the roles that we were supposed to have. Like, my mom and mother-in-law probably would have loved to have taken care of me, but they can't take off work for a month. And I understand that. So please don't tell my mom and my mother-in-law that I thought they weren't supporting me. I know they tried. They return home and they notice a white homestead that has been massacred. And they take this as a moment of like a typical, Disney movie of like, when are we going to stop killing each other? Because we are different. We kill each other for revenge for them killing us, and it just creates this vicious cycle of innocent lives are lost. They return home. Broken Claw is conveniently at war. So he is he's not home. So they're just like, whoof, that saves for an awkward moment. They make a nice lodge, and the shaman puts a silver hawk on the outside of their lodge. And they're just like, oh my God, what's with the silver hawk? Or the white hawk, I guess. They didn't have metallics, but you get what I'm saying. It's supposed to represent a silver hawk. And he's like, that's going to be super important in y'all's future. Again, this silver hawk is crazy important. They are nesting. They are busy with baby preparations. Again, we get amazing detail of baby preparations within this community, and it's so cute, and I love it, and I hope it continues to this day. I truly do. Wolf is nervous because childbirth obviously can be a death sentence, and he's very nervous. He's going to lose Blue Beads and the baby. Blue Beads, though, brings up that her paleface mom had 7 children. So you're like, oh, she remembers. She remembers her life prior to the Comanches. And she says, my paleface mother had 7 babies. I think I'll be okay. Wolf makes a cradle board. It's super cute. Again, goes into detail of all of the things he puts on it to represent different things and how he makes it, because he's just a nervous dad. And so he's just like, I got to do something with my hands. So he makes a little cradle board, and it's so cute. Blue Beads is out peeing, as a pregnant woman does. Bless her heart. I understand that. And the warriors return. Broken Claw is back home, and she's due literally almost any minute now, but like any hour, she's kind of due. Broken Claw has a young 13-year-old girl strapped to his pony, and Blue Beads kind of has that memory of the Apache warrior doing the same thing to her. And so she pops off to Broken Claw, and she's like, you're a fucking pedophile. And this poor little pregnant Blue Beads is just sitting there with her big ass belly, and she is telling this warrior, what's what. And she's like, you're a pedophile. You have to kidnap children to get off because any woman wouldn't be impressed with you. You're a fucking loser. And he... trigger warning for violence against children. This is a threat, but in case you don't want to hear his threat, mute me for like 15 seconds. Okay, are they gone? He looks down at her belly, looks at her, and says, I will kill your husband. I will kill that baby in your belly, and I will make you my woman, whether you want it or not. Which is obviously alluding to rape. Boy, oh boy. She goes home and tells White Wolf about the exchange. And this is where we have this. Wolf's expression softened. He stepped toward her and took her in his arms, tilting her face up to his by her chin. My woman is clever. She tries to soften the anger of White Wolf by keeping the words of Broken Claw, huh? Yes, she confessed. I thank you, beloved, but it is already too late to prevent what must be, he told her with a heavy sigh. Too late? Why? What do you mean? She cried, turning his sternly handsome coppered-skinned face to hers now. Her eyes searched his and found in their depths the answer she dreaded. A duel? You are to fight him with the death-corded knives. I can read it in your eyes. Please, Wolf, I beg you, no. If we hurry, we can run away together again. Find another band where Broken Claw cannot harm you. Be happy together again, just the 2 of us. I beg you, please, my husband. For the sake of the unborn child, listen to me. But can you not see? It is for your sakes that I do this, he insisted firmly, gripping her by her upper arms. My father called a council of elders at Broken Claw's urging, soon after the war party returned. They agreed that Broken Claw had been wrong and permitted him to make the decision of what action should be taken. He sneered and demanded that I give you into his hands, or fight him. So you see, Broken Claw's choice was no choice for me. Since I should never relinquish you, beloved, as long as I draw breath, my choice is to fight. But the duel of the cord and blade is to fight to the death, she wailed brokenly, clinging to him. There can be no survivor, not in this. If you should kill him, your second is then honor-bound to slay you. It's the way. Wolf nodded soberly. It is. But whoever wins, the end will be the same. Don't you see? With Broken Claw dead, he can never take you as his woman, and you will be safe from him. Knowing this, little dove, my spirit will happily walk the ghost path. Yes, while I walk the path of life alone, she sobbed bitterly. You don't have to do this, husband. There has to be another way. There is no other way, not one without honor. Come, I have spoken. I am your husband, and it will be as I say. he reminded her with a firm, gentle voice. No, I can't bear to lose you, no. She let out a great cry, her white face, her frantically working lips, beseeching him to reconsider. But even as she screamed her denial, a white, hot pain knifed through her, robbing her of speech. With a gasp, her hands flew to clasp her swollen belly, and then there was a splash of water on the ground beneath her. She doubled over in agony. What a time to go into fucking labor. Shit. We go through a very detailed natural birthing process. Woo, you talk about flashbacks. Because my epidural did not work with my second one, and he was 10 pounds, y'all. My God. Whew. Talk about the ring of fire. Anyways, their son, Redwing, is born. And it's kind of sad because Bluebeads kind of loses the will to give birth. She doesn't push. And the elders are like, girl, push. You will die. Get the baby out. Of which Bluebeads is obviously just like, why does it matter? Our husband's going to die. His father will die. Doesn't matter. But she cranks out Redwing and he's healthy. We go to the duel. And in this duel, how it is portrayed is Broken Claw and White Wolf are tied together and each are given a knife. And it is a fight to the death. And because they are of the same tribe and they are, quote, brothers, whoever wins gets slain by the other's second in command, because you can't have like murder amongst brothers. Like, it's an honor thing of like, okay, you won, but we still have to kill you because you killed your brother. Like, it's a real complex justice system, but it makes sense in the book. As they are fighting, Broken Claw's second in command jumps in and stabs White Wolf. And you're like, ooh, what the fuck? That's cheating. And it is. And luckily, the battle is forfeited because Blackhawk, the chief, is like, that's fucked up. That's cheating. He exiles Broken Claw and Broken Claw's second in command that did that. He's like, y'all are dirty fucking dogs. Get the fuck out of here. And Broken Claw vows that he will have vengeance against Wolf one way or the other. Wolf goes back home and he opens the lodging to see Bluebeads breastfeeding their baby and singing a very sad song. It's a very solemn scene. And of course, as she's singing it, he's just like, hey, how's our baby? And she's like, oh my God, you lived. And he's like, yes, it was forfeited, so I get to live. It's truly like a real huge stroke of luck that guy cheated and they got to forfeit. They are reunited, tears of happiness. Wolf takes his son, Redwing, and parades him through the community singing a birth song, which I thought was super, super sweet, of this proud daddy holding his baby and singing about his birth and how strong he's going to be. Okay, we cut to modern day. Again, Arizona, 1988. We are with Kelly and, remember, Devin. Devin was that guy that showed up for dinner and charades. And they have been kind of sort of dating for like 6 weeks. Yeah, 6 weeks have passed in the modern day. Because this was a book in the 80s, it's always, you catch it off guard, but I mean, it's not unexpected. She brings up to Devin, they are moving her into her new apartment. And she's like, hey, what do you think about reincarnation? And he says, well, if you were reincarnated, you must have been a slave driver back in the day, the way you're working me. And then he proceeds to go into his best, if you will, mammy impression. Oh, and they're just hooting and hollering and having a good time. And you're like, oh, it's not important, but just so you're not picturing a white guy, Devin is a modern, like, Native American man. He's not super traditional by any means, obviously, but not like that's crazy important when it comes to like this racist thing. But just so you are picturing, again, picture modern Native American man. But because the 80s were a time, and that goes for all ethnicities, he's like doing his best mammy impression. And you're just like, yikes, boy, have we progressed. Not really, but sometimes I'm proud of us. Her and Devin get hot and heavy as they are moving into her new apartment. But she does stop him because she's not ready. She's going through a lot with these dreams. They're kind of coming to her at night. And as they're getting hot and heavy, she moans wolf in Comanche. And he's like, what? He's like, who's? And she's like, oh, it's this guy I've been dreaming about called Wolf. Remember, I told you I'm being reincarnated. I think in a past life I was with a man named Wolf. And he thinks like it's an ex-boyfriend. And he's like, okay, cool, I guess. But he says, I understand you went through a really traumatic divorce and you're going through a lot of emotions and trauma responses. Devin is a doctor, by the way. He's a pediatrician. However, he has a doctor mindset about this. And he's like, obviously you went through a lot of trauma. I think you're having a trauma response. I think this reincarnation you're experiencing is just your brain trying to protect you from what actually happened by fantasizing something else. To which, in Kelly's defense, she's like, why would I fantasize about being, what? No. Like, no. He says, I love you after 6 weeks of dating. Wow. She does not say it back, luckily, but she's just like, okay. She feels bad for stopping them almost having sex because, okay, to be a woman back then, if you gave up too quickly, you were a whore. But if you did not give it up quickly enough, you were a prude and a tease. So you really couldn't win. And she's giving this little inner monologue of like, oh, he's going to think I'm a tease and leave me. He's a man. It's not his fault. He has to have sex. I just need to give it up, even though I'm not ready. They go to McDonald's, of which they have this moment where she's like, I'm kind of hungry. You know, do you mind if we like go out to eat? And he's like, yeah, where do you want to go? And he names all these restaurants they've gone to. And she's like, I could really just go for like some McDonald's. Do you like McDonald's? And he's like, girl, I fucking love McDonald's. To which I'm like, if you are dating for 6 weeks and you love someone, you should probably know if they eat McDonald's. What are y'all talking about? If you're not like, that just seems like a common, hey, what's your favorite foods? Oh, I like this and this. I don't eat this. And like, what are y'all talking about? If you don't know the guy who loves you also likes McDonald's. She unloads on him about all this reincarnation stuff at McDonald's, which again, he's probably just sitting there eating his little Big Mac like, this girl's fucking crazy. But again, he's a doctor and he's just like, this is obviously a very common response to trauma. Your brain's trying to protect you. We will work through this together. I love you, even though you don't know what fast food I like. Devin says we should go find Sam Cloud. We need to go to his reservation and find him and just kind of go through this and hash it out. We cut to a scene of a truck driver driving through Arizona, and he sees a little hitchhiker, and he pulls over and lets him in, and the hitchhiker is clutching a brown paper bag as if it was a baby. And the trucker's like, hey man, where you going? And he's like, can you take me to, was it Tucson? What did I say? Anyways, he's like, can you take me to Tucson? I'm coming from San Francisco. Can you drop me off there? And he's like, oh, you got a girlfriend waiting on you? And he says, no, a wife. Wink. And there's that scene. So you're like, oh shit. Is that Tony? Fuck. We then cut from the trucker with this man who says, I got a wife waiting on me. And he's holding this brown paper bag. Then we go to Barb. And Barb is in her house and she's getting out the shower and she has the radio on. And the radio broadcast cuts to, Los Angeles authorities have today broadened their search for the missing patient San Francisco Veterans Hospital attendants once called Indian Joe. After reported sightings of a man matching his general description in the Anaheim area, Anthony Michaels, a former major and pilot with the Air Force, walked away from the San Francisco hospital where he had been receiving psychiatric treatment in early July of this year. A spokesman said that while Michaels is not considered a risk to the community at large, he could prove dangerous to himself. Anthony Michaels is described as 6 feet 2 inches tall, of slim build with straight black hair and brown eyes. The top 2 joints of the ring finger of his left hand are missing. If you've seen this man or have any information regarding his whereabouts, please and she cuts it off. So, the reader can gather that Tony has escaped the psychiatric ward he was being kept at. And so I think as the reader, we can put together that Tony is on his way. He is on his way to come find Kelly. Devin and Kelly are going to the reservation of which Sam Cloud is supposed to be at, and they are shopping, doing a little shopping. And Kelly is very gravitated and feels pulled towards this silver bracelet, much like on the cover. And the silver bracelet has all these markings and etchings, and it has 2 sapphires in it. And she's like, hey, how much is this bracelet? And the guy says the price, which it literally says in the book, like, he says a price, and she's like, whoops, putting that back. We've all had those times. But she describes all the markings perfectly. She's like, the lightning means this means this flower means this. And the guy who's selling it, the Native American man's just like, yeah, girl, like, you know your shit. And Devin's like, wow, you really know a lot of Comanche stuff. And she's like, I swear to God, I'm telling you, I don't know shit. I'm reincarnated. Please believe me. She feels really gravitated towards this silver bracelet with these 2 little sapphires. And again, the seller goes into detail of this was handed down. It's an heirloom from the 1800s from a Comanche tribe found in Arizona. Obviously, us as the readers can put together, this is blue beads, is sapphires that have been put into this bracelet. Very important for Kelly, probably why she's being pulled towards it. They go to their hotel room, and Devin has 2 hotel keys because he's like, look, you're going through some shit. You don't have to stay in the room with me, which is very nice. Very nice. And he gives her a gift, and she opens it, and it's the bracelet. Because remember, he's got a doctor's salary in the 80s. He can afford this fucking bracelet. Mm-hmm. And she's sitting there at her little hotel bed, and she has the bracelet on, and of course has another reincarnation memory. And that's when we jump to Bluebeards and Wolf. 3 winters have passed. Bluebeards and Wolf and Redwing are thriving as a family unit in their community. Everything is beautiful and great. You're so happy. I love this detail, as with most young families, they find it difficult to have sex in their lodging because their 3-year-old toddler is in the house, if you will, and they have a dog now, and they've taken in an elder woman whose husband died. They took her in, so she's kind of this grandmother figure, and so they're just like, we really want to fuck, but like the lodge is kind of full. And of course, their conversation, poor Bluebeards is like, look, if the baby wakes up, I have to make its meal. We can't wake him up, and you need to go get kindling. Like, they don't get to necessarily, again, these little pioneer old-timey days, you don't get to just like lay in bed because your survival for the day kind of like relies on what you do early in the morning. And they didn't have like Gerber, jarred foods just stored up in the refrigerator to pop open when little Junior wakes up. She has to literally go like make food, and he has to go get firewood and stuff. Like, it's a productive day every day. There's no days off. But he's like, hey, let's go sneak out to our spot. Remember our spot when we were younger, 3 years ago, when we were just wee little whippersnappers? Let's go sneak out to our spot and just kind of have a little morning delight, if you will. And so she's like, okay. And so she sneaks out first, and she's laying there super excited, waiting for Broken Claw. And I swear to God, she don't need to go near any rivers ever. Everything bad happens to her next to a river. If I were her, I'd be getting a bucket of water quickly and then going back to the community to bathe. 15 Kiowa tribal warriors and Broken Claw raid the village. Trigger warning for rape. I'm not going to go into detail, but something does happen during this rape scene that I think is just, I got to tell y'all. But please mute me if you don't want to hear about it for give me 30 seconds. Okay. So, Broken Claw obviously rapes Blue Beads, and it goes into detail, but it's not so much as he rapes her, y'all. She doesn't fight back because she knows it's what he wants. He craves her pain. And so she's like, a lot of women, that is our, sadly, we all know that defense mechanism. If you just lay there. And he starts punching her just like cheek to cheek to cheek in the face, saying, fight back, fight me, scream. And it's just, fuck, you're being not only raped, but punched in the motherfucking face by a grown man over and over. And you think she's gonna die because that would be the common outcome in that situation. He thinks he kills her because she's laying there unconscious. And he cries because he's like, oh, I loved you, Blue Beads. Look what you made me do. You made me kill you. How will I ever go through life without you? And very, I'm not a psychiatrist, like I'm not an expert, but very, not bipolar, but definitely a huge, huge swing of emotions from extremely violent, trying to kill her, and then being so fucking mournful, as if he stumbled upon her dead body, as if he was not the one who did that to her. He's very mentally unstable. The invaders retreat because the warriors in the Comanche tribe just they were ready, and they were ready to fight. And so the Kiowa tribesmen are like, we gotta fucking get out of here. The woman, the elder woman that lives with Blue Beads, she finds her and heals, tries to clean her up and get her back. She is alive. She is alive. Barely, but she is alive. However, Blue Beads is hysterically crying, not because of the trauma that she has endured, but because she is terrified that Wolf will not want her anymore. She is hysterically crying, she's just looking at her bruises. She's been through so much, and she still feels like it's her fault, and that the man she loves is going to see her as ruined. Luckily, Wolf does not do that. And of course not. He's like, are you crazy? It's not your fault. But I do have to go kill Broken Claw. I do have to go kill him right now. And Blue Beads is like, please don't. He's like, please don't put yourself in danger. Please, please, please don't leave me. Don't leave me. He goes off for revenge. Pale faces, white people show up, not in violence. They show up with a wagon of goods. They're open for trade. And so the natives are like, yay, shopping. And it is kind of cute to see all like the little women just being like, ooh, what they got. People love shopping. If I had to wait for a fucking wagon to show up every blue moon to go shopping, I'd be excited too. Even if they were white. However, obviously the chief and the, elders have to go talk to these white people, and they have to mitigate for almost a week before trade can be open, which is safe. Very much Pocahontas. These white men are dangerous. Proceed with caution. So definitely not overkill. Redwing asks if he's white, because the other kids are like, oh, look, they're here to pick you up, Redwing, you white little motherfucker. They're super mean, as kids are. And he's like, am I white? And his mom goes into his lineage of, I'm white, yes, but you were born on Comanche soil. You were born with Comanche culture, Comanche traditions. In this book, they're just like, you are Comanche. Your father is an amazing Comanche warrior. I am a Comanche woman. This is your culture. These are your people. You are no less Comanche than your friends are. And he's just like, great. Blue Beads and Redwing are requested to counsel, which is kind of like getting called to the principal's office with these white men. And so they show up, and it is Donovan. It is her, Blue Beads' younger brother. Remember the twins? It's the brother, Brian, and Captain McHenry. And she shows up, and Donovan's like this giant Irish guy. And he's just like, oh, it's me Mary. Me Mary. We've been looking for you for 8 years, lass. This is where you've been. You got to come home. And she doesn't remember English, so she just sees this giant Irish guy just like crying and holding her, and she's like, what the fuck? And she's like, no. And she tells the medicine man, who is the translator, she's like, I don't know. He tells her, like, that's your dad. That's your pale-faced dad. That's your brother. They want to take you home. And she's like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And she tells him, tell him I am a Comanche woman. I am no, I will not go back. So the medicine man says, hey, y'all asked. The agreement was she would have to come on her own will. She doesn't want to. So y'all can't push the matter anymore. And Donovan's like, okay. But McHenry, remember, he's a piece of fucking shit. And he tells Donovan later, look, we did it your way. Now we're going to do it my way. Cut to Red Wing is 3 years old. Remember, he's a little toddler. And he is chasing his little puppy named Growler. Chasing Growler through the woods. They're having a good time. And he can't find Growler. Growler's gone. Where's Growler? Growler! Where are you? And then, whoop, Red Wing's gone. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Blue Beads obviously is beside herself trying to find her child. Very warranted for that. And she's in the woods tracking where Red Wing went. And she sees McHenry. And he is holding Red Wing, her 3-year-old child, very aggressively, and says, if you do not come with me, I will kill your son. What is a mom to do? And that really made me emotional reading it, because I have kids. And I don't want to be like, you wouldn't understand if you didn't have a kid. But like, to see someone you love being held hostage, especially a child, it definitely, reading it, made my gut churn of the fear. So Blue Beads, not consensually, but forced against her will with Red Wing, are loaded into a wagon, and they are drove a very long ways, days on days. And keep in mind, White Wolf has gone on a revenge quest to get Broken Claw. So he's not home. Like, oh, fuck. Like, the reader is just like, oh shit. This poor girl, Blue Beads, Mary, Kelly, whoever, she's many women in one person, going fucking through it in her past life, in her current life, can't catch a fucking break. They are brought to the white town, kind of like Tombstone. They are brought to the little white establishment, and we get the scene in the movie, if you will, of these white people think that her and Red Wing are, quote, dirty, and that they are carrying fleas and ticks, which is obviously not true, because the girl takes a goddamn river bath all the time and keeps getting snatched. She's probably the cleanest motherfucker there. But anyways, not true. And Blue Beads goes into like her hygiene. She's like, I bathe in the river. I rub my body with, was it yucca root oil? I put dried herbs in my hair. Like, honestly, probably cleaner than some of these pioneers. But it's that scene of they are dunking hot boiling water on her and her poor little baby. They are cutting the son's hair, which is really hard to read, because we all know like hair is so important in so many cultures. So it really sucked to read that they are chopping his hair off and putting him in white boy clothes, of which he's like, I hate these things called breeches, because he was naked for so long. He's just like, these breeches suck. She is put into a corset, a bustle, a hoop skirt, that whole thing. Her hair is yanked into a bun. She is covered up to like her neck, like, the Little House on the Prairie dresses. And she's like, I am so uncomfortable right now. Beads is mad at Red Wing because he is conforming very well to the white people. He is calling his grandfather. He's calling his uncle. Like, he's conforming very well. And she's really pissed off because she's like, you're supposed to be a strong Comanche warrior in the future, and you're just like jumping in the lap of these white people. However, she does remember, did she not do the same when she was taken in with the Comanches? Was she not a child that through survival acclimated? So as bad as she was, she understands he is just trying to survive. But I understand her grievances of just like, you could be a little upset wearing the breeches. Shit. She begs her brother Brian to let her go. Please, please, please. And he says, no, Father has been a shell of himself for the past 8 years. They have the other twin, Bridget. She has never spoken since that day. She is, I won't say mute, but she has never said a word since that day. He was like, the family needs you to come home. I can't let you go. And he's like, I understand you're not happy, but I can't let you go. Everything is really fucked. Like, her family means well. Her brother and father, they've been looking for her for 8 years. They truly mean well. Like, when her dad sees her, he cries because she looks just like her mother. I understand their side of it. They're not being mean, like, we're going to take you away from these dirty Comanches and you're going to come be with white people. They truly think in their honest to goodness hearts that if she's just around her original culture enough, she'll snap back, if that makes sense. Because that's what McHenry keeps telling Donovan. Because Donovan's like, oh my God, you kidnapped her? And he's like, I had to. She's been so brainwashed. This is the only way, Donovan. We have to kind of like force assimilate her back into her culture. And Donovan's like, okay, like, I guess if that's what you think. So Donovan's not a bad guy. He's just a dad who wanted his daughter back. You can't fault him for it. It's 4 months in and they are driving to town. And Brian's wife, at this time, Blue Beads is now Mary. Mary's sister-in-law is a fucking bitch. She's a racist piece of shit. But Donovan, the father, stands up to her. And he's like, you're not about to talk to my daughter like that. Because Sarah is just like, oh, she's just a dirty Indian. And she doesn't know culture. And she's just a savage. Awful, awful stuff. And Donovan's like, I will knock you out of this goddamn carriage if you don't shut the fuck up, Sarah. Like, he's just like, shut up. That's my Mary. That is my daughter. Shut up. As she goes into town, she's starting to recall her childhood because she's kind of like, oh yeah, that's where that lady's head was during the massacre. And here we have this scene. Well, Sarah exclaimed, her lips pursed in annoyance. It would seem that despite Papa Kelly's lofty words, I'm about to be the one to bear the burden of parading you two about before the town. My lord, a witless child and half-savage hellion, she clicked her tongue. What will folks think? She lifted a wicker basket from the rear of the buckboard and turned to the pair with a look that spoke volumes. Well, come along if you must. No dawdling. After a moment's hesitation, Blue Beads slipped her hand into Bridget's slender one behind Sarah's back. She smiled. Come, little silent one. Will we hold hands? Yes, she said softly in Comanche. And if we must be afraid, then we will be afraid together. Fear and joy are like honey, yes? Better shared with a friend. Despite Bridget being mute and Mary/Blue Beads speaking only in Comanche, they do have like that mutual look when your like sister-in-law is being a fucking cunt and you're just looking at each other like, to my audio listeners, you really missed out on a good look. The sister-in-law leaves Mary Blue Beads alone in town. She's like, you wait here. And of course, nasty, gross men are like, oh, is that little Comanche girl? Let me take a look at you. And one guy tries to like kiss her. And she grabs his knife and pulls it out and puts it under him. Like, I will fuck you up, motherfucker. Don't fuck with me. And of course, these white people are like, oh, she's a savage. No, she's a woman defending herself. My God. Anyways, luckily, Donovan shows up, pushes that guy off and is like, get the fuck off of my fucking daughter. Come on, Mary, we're going home. During this kerfuffle, Red Wing, he is, I think the white people call him Rory because that's red in Irish. But anyways, Red Wing is like, hey, I've had fun with Grandpa, but I really miss Dad. I want to go home. Like, he's kind of seen this as like, as a little kid would, of just like a really fun summer camp. And he's like, hey, I'd like to go home, Mom. When are we going home? Mary is a shadow of herself. She's not eating a lot. She's super depressed. Her cheeks are now hollowed. The life is out of her eyes. And Donovan is starting to have regrets. He's like, she's not snapping back. As they are sitting outside of a fire, a howling is heard in the distance. And the Irish white people are looking around just like, oh, there's a wolf out. But they look at Mary, and Mary has this wild look in her eyes and is and she looks happy and she's praying. She's hitting the ground. She is thrilled. And here we have this scene. Brian went out to the back porch and saw that his sister was there, as indeed she was each and every night as the sun went down. But this time, instead of standing there straight and still with the enormous dignity she possessed, her fingers were clenched over the split railing before her. Her head was thrown back as she looked up the vermilion-streaked sky as if in a jubilant prayer of thanks. "Mary," Brian said sharply, alarmed by her stance. "Mary, what's with ye?" At once, she spun around to face him, startled by his voice, and in a brief, unguarded moment, Brian saw the wild, boundless joy that filled Mary's face and lit her eyes, and was stunned to the core by its blazing radiance. A scant second later, the look had fled as if it had never been. Her face was again a lovely mask, composed and utterly devoid of expression. Without a word, she averted her eyes, brushed past him, and went back inside the room she shared with her son, leaving her brothers staring out at the empty foothills and wondering what made her look that way. It is Mary's 20th birthday, and if we remember, Mary's birthday, kind of not the best day. So obviously they are going to the site of the Donovan, Donovan takes them to her mother's grave and her siblings' graves. And here we have Mary, how she's kind of handling it, because Mary, although she remembers her family, she did not grow, she's like, she has many families, and she's not necessarily crude, like, well, fuck this white lady, like, I'm a Comanche girl. However, she's not going to sit there and beat her chest over the mother that she barely remembers, if you know what I mean. Here's an excerpt. Her feelings had nothing to do with Donovan or the Kellys' urgings to accompany them, she reflected, setting her own wilted offering atop the masked blossoms. This was her own token of respect and sorrow in remembrance of the sweet-faced, overworked woman she vaguely recalled as the source of all strength and love and comfort for the little girl she'd been back then. More of a feeling of security and warmth than a true sense of remembering the woman herself. So I thought that was a really nice way of kind of Mary recognizing her mother, giving her respect, but also you can't expect her to be like, my mom. So again, beautifully written. This book is so damn good. I wish I could just read it to y'all. As we are at this funeral, a venomous snake shows up, and y'all know I love snakes. However, the wild be wildin', and remember what I told y'all, if y'all have a snake bite plan in your head, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. But anyways, these are white settlers from Ireland. They don't know shit about snakes. Bridget is bit by the snake. Remember, the girl who does not talk. They are fucking panicking. And Blue Beads, Mary, grabs a knife from, I think, her dad or her brother and stabs the snake immediately. But it looks like she stabbed Bridget, and that's why Bridget's crying. From everybody else, they just see Blue Beads holding this knife and Bridget on the ground screaming. And they're like, oh my God, she snapped. However, Donovan and Brian come closer and they see that it is a snake bite. And then they pull the knife out of the snake. And they're just like, oh, she was trying to save Bridget. Snake venom is coursing through Bridget. This is the pioneer days. Again, not the ye old quiet times that they keep being made out to be. This snake bite will kill Bridget. We have this. And I just thought it was really funny. Not funny, but I just like the dialogue. No, give me knife, Blue Beads hissed urgently to her father, holding out her hand and fixing his blue eyes with her own. Without hesitation, he gave a small nod and handed it to her. Her heart filled. Her white father trusted her. No, father, don't! Surely you can't mean to put another weapon in her murdering hands! Sarah exclaimed in horror, pushing her way through the circle of onlookers to reach him. Isn't one attempt on the poor child's life and... For once in your life, shut up, Sarah! Brian snapped curtly, brushing past his wife to kneel alongside his father. Can ye not see the wee girl's been snake bit? Mary only tried to stop the rattler from biting her, not kill her, you stupid woman. He gritted in obvious contempt and no little embarrassment at his wife's foolishness. I just thought it was funny because somebody finally clapped down on fucking Sarah and was like, God damn it, Sarah, shut the fuck up. Little racist ass bitch. Sorry. What Bluebeads does is she opens the snake up, and I tried researching this, and I found nothing, but it must be something because Penelope Neri doesn't lie. I think it's an old folklore, like wives' tale remedy, but interesting nonetheless. She opens the snake up and pushes the snake's body onto the bite, and it absorbs the poison. And in their pre-science minds, they're like, oh, the evil is being absorbed by the evil. I don't know. I tried looking it up to see if that was a thing. I couldn't find shit. Because every time I looked up something, it would just be like snake bite remedies and like how to avoid a snake bite. And I'm like, no, show me this thing. But I did find one thing that said it was in some native tribes, they would kill the snake and like cut it open or something in order to pull the poison. Like, again, in their pre-science minds, it was in their minds, they were like, if we torture the evil will be pulled out of your body. But I think in a scientific way, it was like flesh on flesh, and the poison was closer to that flesh, and it probably pulled a little bit. I don't know. I've never heard about it. It's just a quick little blip. It was just very interesting for me. I was like, if you were bit by a snake, please do not put the snake's body on your wound. Please go to the hospital. But back in the day, everything was a Hail Mary. You're just doing the best you could. And here we have Bridget speaks for the first time. "Thank you, Mary," she said softly, tears in her bright blue eyes. "But then you always took good care of me and Seamus. You saved us that day, didn't you? I remember it all so clearly. Did you know that? You hid us inside the barrels and made us be quiet, but the Patchies took you away. We never saw you again. I remember it as if it were yesterday." For the first time since that terrible day 12 years ago, when her life had depended on her ability to stay silent, Bridget Kelly had spoken. And when she finished speaking, she wept. Bluebeads looked up at her father's face and saw that tears were streaming down his cheeks, down the cheeks of Brian and Seamus, and yes, even down Sarah's, who'd been watching them and listening to their touching exchange. Bluebeads picked up Bridget's hand and gently but firmly placed it in her father's, folding his sturdy, calloused fingers tight about her sister's. "What is it you're trying to say, Colleen?" asked, his eyes searching for her face. "This son, Donovan Kelly's second daughter, come back to him," she said softly. "Something once lost is more precious when found again, yes?" He nodded gravely, swallowing the giant knot choked up in his throat. "Aye, lass, it is that," he acknowledged. "Doubly precious." "I give you back little sister's life," she reminded him, handing him back the knife by its blade. "Please, Donovan Kelly, my white father, can you not do the same for me?" This is what got me crying in my kitchen. This next scene. If the book ended here, I'd be happy. It doesn't, but this is such a closing on her white family. Fuck. I'm going to try not to cry when I tell y'all about it. Bridget's been in bed for 3 days. She's healing. She's on bed rest. The boys are out at their fire, and that wolf is howling again. And I'm going to read y'all this because I just got to read it. It's going to be 3 pages, but just vibe with me, okay? Do y'all want me to act it out? "Damn that savage's soul," McHenry growled. "I'll stop him from howling." He reached for his rifle, but Donovan Kelly stopped him. "I'll see to it this time, Eli. Set yourself down, man." Scowling, McHenry returned to the fire. Donovan took his hat from the peg by the door and stepped outside into the night. As he expected, Mary was on the back porch, and his grandson was with her. As he watched, his daughter ducked under the railing and lifted Redwing down with her. Hand in hand, they started across the dirt yard, stealthily headed for the open gate in the white rail fence that enclosed it. As the pair passed within feet of him, Bluebeard sensed his presence in the shadows and turned to look at him. The breath caught in his throat at the joy, the wild, beautiful joy and love he saw in her face. In that moment, she looked as his Kate had once looked on their wedding day. She opened her mouth to say something, but he stepped from the shadows and pressed his finger across her lips. "Nay, Morvenine, there's no need for words between us. Not any more. By God, your eyes say it all. Go to him now, lass. Quickly, for that damn McHenry comes." He kissed her brow and lifted the lad for a farewell kiss, hugging him tightly before setting him down beside his mother. God be with ye, dearlings, both yours and mine. With that, he stepped away. Run, Redwing's mother told him, the joy singing in her voice like a bow vibrating across the string. Run like the wind, my son. Oh, God, now I'm crying. Hold on. And then they were running, the two of them racing hand in hand across the yard and through the gate. Young woman and little child flying across the moon-washed desert, heading toward the inky blackness of the foothills, headed toward the lonely howl of the white wolf. Brian watched from the back door that led out onto the porch, realizing too late their intention. Mary, no, he cried softly. Come back here. Cursing his stupidity, he leaped over the porch railing and started running for the corral, thinking he could mount up his horse and bring him back. No, Brian, no. Leave him well enough. Let him go, his father's rough voice said. What? Brian was aghast. Aye, you heard the rights of it, Donovan rasped hoarsely, and Brian heard the tears that choked his voice along with the conviction. Let them go, I say. Enough is enough. But, Pa, why? You spent a dozen years searching after our Mary. Aye, I did that, didn't I? And I found her, too, thanks to Elias McHenry. But, Brian, me boy, oh, sometimes a man gets what he pines for only to find it ain't what he really wanted at all. You didn't want Mary back? Oh, I wanted her right enough. God knows I did, and I still do. I loved the lass, Brian, you know that. But more than that as her father, I needed more than anything else to know she was safe and happy after all those years of fretting about her. Like a fool. He goes into how McHenry and told Donovan that they would snap back, that this was just brainwashing. And he's saying that McHenry did not do this out of Christian love. He did this out of the cruelty and his hatred towards the natives, that he will do anything to punish a native, and he wanted to punish her native husband, their tribe. He was like, he did it out of revenge. He did not do this out of Christian love. He was not intent on bringing us together as a family. He was just intent on hurting native people. And here we have this. There's a time to hate, son, but there's also a time when a man has to forgive and forget, get on with his life. In pining after me wee Mary, I've neglected my other little Irish rose, my wee Bridget. Mary, well, she made me see that. She gave the girl back to us, lad, and I don't intend to forget her lesson again. And now will you look at that, he exclaimed suddenly. Oh, God, y'all, I'm like tearing up. Shit. Brian turned in the direction of his father and nodded. He saw now that the silhouette of a solitary Indian warrior astride one pony and leading another behind him had broken away from the dense blackness of the foothills and ridden boldly out into the open. Moonlight fingered the ghostly white patches and mane of his horse and the white plumes he wore in his hair, which fluttered in the night wind. As the pair watched, they saw the warrior dismount and open his arms to embrace the woman they'd call Mary. She went to them like a ship sailing safe into the harbor after a storm, clinging to him fiercely, briefly, before he tossed her up on the back of the second pony. Then he leaned down and lifted the child, hugged him, and tossed him high in the air before setting him on his own mount. Then he vaulted astride the paint pony and sat there, his head turned in their direction. For a moment, as he sat on his horse as still and quiet as the two of them were carved from obsidian, it seemed as if the brave was staring straight at them, his eyes piercing the night. They could feel his gaze upon him, could almost feel the Comanche warrior's boundless pride and innate dignity tangible in those breathless seconds. And then he slowly raised his arm in salute. Donovan Kelly stepped forward and solemnly returned the gesture. Then, like shadows, both ponies and riders vanished into the light. The hackles rose on both Donovan and Brian's necks as they heard the howl of a wolf ringing out across the desert, soon after splintering the hush. But this time it was neither lonely nor a mournful sound. It was a high, yip howl of joy and triumph, the howl of a wolf who'd regained his lost mate. If y'all are not crying, y'all are monsters. But I'm just kidding. Obviously, if you read this, you will cry, but me doing the rendition's not getting near enough emotional. But if the book would have ended there, I would have been happy. I would have been happy. Because it's so beautiful. Like, can we just talk about this scene just for a second? Call this an intervention. Because It not only beautifully describes, again, Penelope Neary, the way she describes that humans can be good and bad no matter where they come from, no matter what shapes and sizes. There are good natives and bad natives. There are good Comanches, bad ones. There are good Christian men and bad Christian men. There are women, like, the way she paints all human types, and she does not lean on one trope or the other. She breaks tropes. Again, Donovan Kelly's a good fucking father. Your heart breaks for him. But when he said, you know, like, go with God, yours and mine, like, he's acknowledging, like, as a Christian man, for him to even acknowledge that she worships other gods and he blesses, like, are you kidding me? Penelope, it's the 80s. How dare you write this way? How dare you write so heartwarmingly progressive and sweet and kind? And Donovan's just this sweet, big Irish oaf. And he acknowledges that he, in his search for Mary, he's ignored the whole other daughter he had. And he's like, Mary taught me to appreciate. Like, he's like, I love all my daughter. Like, oh God, as I'm sitting here clinging to this Meemaw's grandkid necklace, like, it's so beautiful. He's like, I just wanted to know she was happy. And she is. And then for her to look down at her son, and you know, if this was a movie, she'd be like, run, Red Wing. And they would run through the desert to White Wolf, just tearing off those colonial clothes. They are ripping off vests. They are ripping off stupid hats. They are pulling pins out of their hair, ripping corsets off. You know, they are just freeing themselves from these shackles. And they're probably hooping and yipping and just expressing joy in their traditional way. And he throws his son up in the air. Oh, fuck. Like, y'all, I was crying reading this. It was so beautiful. Like, it's just, some of these stories can be so fucking beautiful. And I just thought it was amazing of this dad, like, this father's love, but like with Donovan, but then also with White Wolf, because he found them. He searched for days and found them because he's a father too. And it was like mutual fathers. But then it also acknowledges, like, Donovan sees his wife and the joy in his daughter's face when she hears White Wolf is the joy that his wife had on their wedding day. And he sees that. And I'm just like, the layers, y'all. Like, I'm crying. The layers. Oh my God. Again, if the book would have just ended here, I would have been so fucking happy. But it doesn't. We're close, but it doesn't, y'all. Give me a second. Let me get together. Hold on. Ah. Okay, I'm gonna get it together. I'm a fucking amateur professional. God damn it. I'm gonna get y'all through this book. As if that wasn't sweet enough, as they're traveling home, remember, it's going to take days, if not weeks, to get home. And they're traveling home through the desert. And White Wolf's like, where's Growler? Where's your puppy? And this fucking toddler left his puppy to his grandfather so that it would ease his heartache. Are you fucking kidding me? Again, I'm just like, if I wasn't crying, I'm just sobbing. Because he's like, I let Growler stay with Grandpa Donovan because I know he's going to miss me and Growler will help him. And I'm like, what? Oh God. And anyways, and so Bluebeards and White Wolf are so proud of their fucking child for making such an amazing selfless decision. But in the same time, like, poor little Red Wing is like a 3-year-old and he's clutching his little toy Growler. Like, he has a toy dog and he's clutching his little toy Growler. And I'm like, y'all, this book, fuck. Wolf goes into how he found them. This chapter is kind of how he tracked them down. A lot of detail. Again, dude's a fucking pro. Because McHenry knew he was going to be tracked. And so he did his own diversions of, like, to make sure they weren't going to be tracked. But White Wolf is a fucking pro and he's going to find you. He going to find you. Bluebeards and Wolf make up for lost time, if you will. Make up for lost time. And it's very sweet. Wolf takes Redwing hunting, which is so sweet. Like, this book's just so sweet. He takes him hunting because he's like, you have proven yourself to be so brave. I'm going to take you hunting, you big man. And Redwing's like, I get to go hunting with you, Dad. Like, it's a cute moment. However, Wolf comes back because Redwing has fallen down with a fever. And he is breaking out in rashes. They don't have a medicine man. They are alone in the desert. There are no herbs. Obviously, this is a dire situation. Redwing is getting worse, and Beads falls into, if you will, like a depression because she kind of can see the writing on the wall of her child will not make it, because how on earth will they? And White Wolf is trying to, he's like, remember when I was going through my fever and you prayed to Brother Wolf? And I push through your love. We can do that with our child. Like if we pray hard enough and we love hard enough, he will survive. And like truly praying is just like such a Hail Mary. It's just the last thing you can do. We feel bad. She's sitting there feeling bad as a mother who can't do anything. You're watching your child die and you're running in circles going, what can I do? And the only thing she can do is pray. So I will never fault someone for, I know the idiom of thoughts and prayers. It's such a sad thing, but in this moment, sometimes truly all you can do is pray. Wolf knows that his birth tribe, the Hopi people, are out in this desert. So he's like, he makes like this little cart, this little sled, and he loads Blue Beads and Redwing onto it. Because remember, Redwing is like unconscious with this fever, and Blue Beads is pretty much unconscious with grease. She's just a shell. And he's like, we're going to go find the Hopi tribe. They will help us. And so this father is pulling his family through the desert. They find the Hopi tribe. Also, we learn real quick. I know what you're saying. Is Broken Claw going to show up? Broken Claw, we get a clip, if you will, of as he's journeying, he's reflecting on how he got there and if he's being punished because he scalped Broken Claw. He finally found him, grabbed him up by his hair, scalped him, and killed him. And they had last words as friends who have now destroyed each other. But White Wolf feels that he is being punished by the gods, by the universe, for going against his brother, because this all started over a cute girl at the campfire. We meet his uncle, White Wolf's uncle, and here we jump to the prologue. So remember, the prologue had him having to go on a journey to save Blue Beads and get that prophecy of the silver hawk with the black beetle on it. So we have jumped, we're right there, okay? We go to Blue Bead's point of view. She is out of bodying, if you will. She's having an out of body experience through all of this. And she is seeing Wolf cry at her feet, cry to this medicine man, please save my wife. She feels bad, but she's like, I can't go back if my son dies. I have to be here. I have to wait for him for when he dies so he does not go to the spirit world alone. So I will just sit up here and wait. The medicine man does something and he's calling her, and she's finally feeling the pull, the strength to fight back, to live. And she's trying to return to her body, but this great evil is preventing her. She feels this evil darkness that is not allowing her to get into her body. And through this spiritual battle, if you will, she feels for this is also metaphysical in energies, but she's fighting this evil presence that won't let her enter her body, but she does feel a release, a gateway, if you will. And she's like, I have to escape this evil entity. I will go through this portal. And that is how we get Blue Beads in Kelly's body, y'all. She wakes up and she is Kelly. We cut to Devin is knocking on Kelly's door. It's the day that they're going to go find Sam Cloud and deal with all of this. And she's not waking up. Like, he's banging on the door. He fights off because the security guard's like, hey man, I don't think she wants you in her room. And he's like, no, you don't understand. She's unresponsive. I can tell she would let me in. And the security guard's like, sure, man, let me escort you out the building. Devin fights the security guard and breaks the door down. He gets to her. She's unconscious, but she does slowly wake up. And as she wakes up, she starts speaking in Comanche. This little white girl wakes up speaking Comanche. And Devin's like, what the fuck? He asks her, look, I'm a doctor. You need to tell me what you've taken. So I can't very much, the EMT of just like, I can't save your life if you are not honest with me. Tell me what you took. And she's like, Devin, you asshole, I didn't take shit. Like, I'm telling you, it's reincarnation. And he's like, like, he's a very science-driven man. He's a doctor. She gives this amazing monologue of, again, very progressive for the 80s. She's like, I don't know what happens after we die. No one does. She's like, we have Christianity, we have Buddhism, we have so many different religions. We have all these tribal religions. None of us know what happens after we die. So who's to say what I'm experiencing is not real? I'm experiencing this. This is happening to me. Who's to say this isn't what happens when you die? Very that. And I just really like that. If she's just kind of like, I know your beliefs are your beliefs, but I'm experiencing something here. I'm going through something. Who's to say this is not real? So they're like, all right, we'll go to the reserve. But I like the detail that the hotel staff's like, after you pay for that fucking door. And Devin's like, okay, well, after I pay for the door, we will go on this spiritual journey. They go to the reserve that Sam is supposed to be at. However, no one has ever heard of Sam Cloud. They're like, we don't know who the fuck you're talking about. Never heard of him. As if he didn't exist. Y'all, these next chapters are about to blow your mind. Okay, follow me. I'm going to do the best I can. So Kelly's like, get in the car. We will drive to the desert. And Devin, he's like, how is that going to fix anything? But he also agrees. He's like, whatever will get you through this trauma. We'll do whatever you want. We'll go drive in the desert, whatever. And they drive through the desert and Kelly is like, stop the car. Stop the Jeep. He's in that cave. And they get out. And to be Devin in this situation, you get out the Jeep. This girl that you have a crush on walks to a cave. And this old native man walks out. And they just start speaking fluently in Comanche. Devin's like, what the fuck is happening? Again, he just will like refuse to just like let it go and just vibe with it. But he's like, how does she know Comanche? And you're screaming as a reader like, Devin, Jesus. Sam Cloud tells Kelly, you have to go to the gateway to save Blue Beads. You have to go to the gateway to release her. And Kelly and Blue Beads are interacting in Kelly's body, but they are both simultaneously aware. So neither one of them forgets what happens to the other. It's kind of like a twin spirit in a person's body. And so Kelly understands Blue Beads is talking to the Standing Clouds, who is the man that is currently with White Wolf. Remember, he's at this Hopi tribe with this medicine man, his uncle, and that is Sam Cloud. And so Sam Cloud is in both universes talking to Blue Beads, being like, you have to go here. I can guide you through this portal. In a few weeks, it will be open. My tribe will have the ceremony and the gateway will open for you. You have to be there. And Kelly is kind of like letting Blue Beads take control, but she's also understanding what she has to do to help Blue Beads. We cut to real quick. Barb and Bill's house has been broken into and destroyed. They even destroyed the nursery, which is super fucked up. Nothing was taken except an address book. This is when Bill mentions to Kelly, hey, so Tony might have escaped. Obviously, Kelly's like, are you fucking kidding me? You didn't want to tell me. And Bill's like, well, I mean, I didn't want to, you were having such a good time. You were getting on your feet. I didn't want you to be worried. And so Kelly's like, okay, well, is he in the San Francisco area? And Barb's like, no, girl, he's like in town. Like you haven't listened to the radio? They've been talking about it nonstop. And Kelly's like, no, I haven't been listening to the fucking radio. So Kelly's like, oh my God, Tony's out. He's here. It's like Freddy Krueger is in, like, oh shit. Devin obviously is like, well, if Tony's out, you can't go to the ceremony. You can't. Which isn't like wrong. I don't know. Just say you'll go with her. Like, I don't know. She needs to do this. And here we have this scene. Devin they're at Kelly's apartment. And Devin, again, trying to get it on with Kelly. You can't, like, the man's trying. He's trying. Oh, Lord, his kisses fired a wild response in her body. that set her pulse racing and her knees quivering. But then she recalled Sam Cloud's ambiguous comment the night of the snake dances back in August, and she knew she couldn't let him continue. "Father of the Peace Bringer," he greeted Devin, and although it had taken several hours of thought on that long drive back home to Scottsdale, she finally had known what Sam had meant. It took all of her willpower to squirm her hands up between them and gently push Devin away. To her dismay, she discovered she was actually shaking as she pressed her palms against his broad chest and had to turn her head aside to escape both his searing, hungry lips and the intimacy of his body, overtly male nearness. He's pressing his heart on against her. "Don't do this to me, Kelly, honey. Not tonight," he groaned huskily, his hot breath rasping against her cheek. "I've been a goddamn monk for too long, but tonight I want you too damn much to play games anymore. Don't let some crazy dream come between us. Not now. Not ever. I love you, baby. I need you. I've always needed you." "Devin, don't," she whispered. "We've been through all of this already, and you know how I feel. At sunset tomorrow, I'll be there. And Wolf—" "Screw your damn Wolf," Devin cut in, crude in his hurt and bitter with anger. "What about me, Kelly? What about how I feel? Don't I count? Am I in the here and now? I'm real, living and hurting, breathing and wanting. But did you ever stop to think about me and my feelings in all of this? Give me a real flesh and blood rival, and by God, I'll give the son of a gun a run for his money, woman. But what you're asking of me is crazy. Christ's sakes, Kelly, I can't compete with a ghost, a mirage, some made-up phantom lover you've dreamed up. Hell, I can't even fight a made-to-order fantasy man for the woman I love. Now can I? Answer me, damn it." I don't want you to fight anyone for me." Kelly came back in a lower voice, painfully aware the doors had opened up and down the corridor and the numerous heads had poked out to identify the cause of the argument. "I love you, yes, but as a dear, dear friend, a brother. And Devin, I've never lied to you. I've always been honest about my feelings. I told you not to expect too much from me, right from the first, remember?" "For crying out loud, lady, let the guy come in so we can all get some sleep," came a loud voice. "Oh, please, Devin, come inside just for a minute. We can't discuss this here. Everyone's listening." "Damn it, Kelly, no, I won't come inside. There's no point in prolonging this charade any minute. Fact is, we can't discuss this anywhere, not out here or inside, because there's nothing to discuss. Zero. Nada." Out through a hardened jaw, his turbulent brown eyes hooded by stormy black brows. "You wanted a friend, you say? Well, I'm sorry, babe. I guess you'll just have to find someone else to see you off on this wild goose chase tomorrow. See, playing big brother or friend to you hasn't been enough for me. Never enough. I look at you and you drive me wild. I smell your fragrance and it aches me so bad it hurts. I hear your voice and it's like I'm on fire. I want a woman, Kelly, not a friend. I want a wife, goddammit. And since you're more interested in chasing shadows than becoming either, I guess I'll say adios." So saying, he flung about and strode down the hallway away from her. So they break up, and she's obviously in her apartment. Feels terrible, but it had to be done. She's like, I've got to go on the spiritual journey. I can't worry about Devin. And y'all, ring-a-ding-ding, we drink some milk. She padded barefoot into the kitchenette and opened the refrigerator, withdrawing a carton of milk and pouring herself a tall glass. Y'all, the milk... How many milks are we? Someone keep count. Is this like 5 for 5 of the milks? I don't know. We need like this is how many books until milk was mentioned. Big Milk had a chokehold on society prior to like the 2020s when everybody realized, hey, maybe we're all a little lactose intolerant. Of which, okay, real quick. I usually drink Activia, but then I've been drinking, was it Kefir? 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 It's Eastern European, so I'm probably missing like a in there. But kefir, whatever. I looked up like gut bacteria stuff. I don't want to take supplements if I don't have to. It's that damn if you do, damn if you don't. You need the vitamins, but then if you take a shit ton of supplements, it rots your liver. You can't fucking win. So I was like, okay, how can I help my gut health without taking probiotics? What's a natural probiotics? Again, Activia is great, but also that kefir stuff. And when I looked it up, it said it was the champagne of milk. So I have a glass of the champagne of milk every day. I didn't think I drank mine this morning. I need to go drink mine. Anyways, but she has her tall glass of milk after a breakup. Did milk hit differently back in the day? Am I missing something? I mean, I'm from the 90s, the early 90s. Like, I don't remember milk being this awesome where everybody's like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out, y'all. I need a glass of milk. I need a glass of milk. At least it's not warm milk in this case. It is straight from the fridge. So maybe I guess it could be refreshing. I don't know. But she turns on the Tonight Show and drinks her glass of milk in front of the TV. That's psychotic. To turn on the TV and sit on your couch with a glass of milk as your snack. Not a cookie, not a cut of brownie, not a piece of cake, not a chip to be seen. Just a glass of milk. That's psychotic. All right. She hears a banging on the door. He is cooled off. He will take her. Because he, as pissed as he is, he doesn't want this girl going alone on this trip. He's like, I will take you. You do need a friend. You do need someone to come with you, especially because your abusive ex-husband is just out and about. As they are making up and hugging, we get the point of view of someone, some eyes, someone watching from behind like a grate in her house. And that person is clutching a brown paper bag, holding a big nasty knife. And obviously the reader's like, Tony's in the house. Tony's in the goddamn house. We wake up, Devin wakes up. There is no Kelly. Kelly is gone. She has left him a very long note saying she has to do this on her own. This is her journey. She has to do this for Blue Beads. She needs to get through this for her own trauma. Like, this is helping her kind of process her own grief. And he's like, fuck. And so he's stumbling, putting on his jeans, and he notices a brown paper bag. And he opens it, and literally every weapon ever is in it. There's a knife, there's a gun. To which I'm like, well, how's Tony going to kill her if he left his bag of goodies? Where's Kelly? Where's Tony? And obviously Devin's like, are you fucking kidding me? Tony was in the house. Tony's in the house and Kelly's gone. Son of a bitch. And so as he's like panicking, this is the 80s, the 90s, if you will. This is before cell phones. And he does have the clever idea of, he calls a bunch of tour agencies throughout the area. And he's like, did anyone request a tour? Did anyone, because Kelly doesn't have a car. So he's like, is anyone requesting a tour through the desert? And is a Kelly, requesting a tour? And of course, these like old timey people are just like, yeah, totally. And he's like, oh my God, stop her. And they're like, well, she booked a helicopter tour through the canyon. And he's like, please, for the love of God, stop her. Don't let her go. She's in danger. And they go, well, she's already up in the air, so we can't. And so Devin is like, God damn it. And he gets in his car and he is flying down the highway. Because again, no cell phones. And he's like, please, for the love of God, I don't know what my plan's going to be, but I got to get there. And of course, as he is plowing down the highway, a van of tourists, cut in front of him, and he slams on the brakes and they have been cut. The brakes have been cut. And so he swerves and he slams into a telephone pole. Okay. We have 2 chapters left, y'all. Shit's about to hit the fan. Hold on to something. We cut to Kelly is up in the air in the helicopter. It is her and the pilot. And she's looking down, trying to find the exact location of like this. In the canyon, there's this mesa, and she's supposed to get on it for the gateway. The gateway is going to be on the mesa. And as she's looking for it, the pilot's like, what are you looking for? Like, are you supposed to be meeting a boyfriend or something? And she's like, no, it's just this thing I got to do for a friend. And he keeps leaning on like this boyfriend thing. Like, oh, you probably got a boyfriend waiting for you. And she's like, what are you fucking talking about? And the pilot turns around. Y'all, the pilot's Tony. What the fuck? The pilot's Tony? She's in a helicopter with her, I'm sorry if this isn't politically accurate, but her psychotic ass ex-husband who broke out from the psychiatric ward is flying a helicopter with her in it. What? So she is obviously fucking panicked. And she's trying to do that thing of like, Tony, hey, we can land and work this out. You're right. I was a fucking bitch. I cheated on, like, she's saying anything she can to get him to land that helicopter. And he's just not watching where he's going. He's leaning back. He's like, no, babe, we're totally going to be together in all lifetimes. Me and you forever, girl. It's just us. I love you so much. And she's like, I love you too. We're going to be together, you know, when we land. And he's like, no, we need to be together in the afterlife. Like he's obviously having a mental illness breakdown flying this helicopter. He lets go of the controls because he wants to commit manslaughter and suicide. They are careening down into the canyon in this helicopter, and she grabs the controls and she's like, Tony, she's fucking pissed. She's like, Tony, I swear to God, if you don't tell me how to fly this goddamn fucking helicopter. She's begging him, and he's just laughing, just like, no, it's us in the end, babe. It's us. Yeah. You thought you could hide from me. Nuh-uh. You're my woman till the very end. This helicopter with silver wings is falling out of the sky. They're careening out of the fucking sky, y'all. And here we have this. Damn you, you bastard. Help me. Tell me which one, for God's sake. She sobbed hysterically. No. Tony suddenly cursed behind her, pressing his face to the glass as the careening world raced up to meet them. But he hadn't spoken in answer to Kelly's plea. No, it cannot be, he spat, his lip curled with loathing, his knuckles white where they clutched the seat. He will not take the woman from me a second time. He blinked then, flicked his head to clear it, and giggled. All right, White Wolf, old buddy. That's the way you want it. Here goes nothing, he crowed. You're headed for the happy hunting grounds this time, pal. Make no mistake. And this time around, the gal's all mine. Tony's startling exclamation froze the frantic sobs on Kelly's lips. She looks down and she sees what Tony sees, and that is White Wolf. He is in his warrior's regalia. He has his feathered lance, and he is screaming his war chant up at the air at them. And in that moment, she stops crying. She's not frantic anymore. Y'all, she literally sits back in the cockpit with a smile on her face and feels a wash of relief over her body as this helicopter, this small plane, whatever it was, hurls down towards White Wolf. And I'm going to give you the last paragraph of this, like the book. There's an epilogue, so don't leave. There's an epilogue that the plane exploded in an orange ball of fire before, tail over nose, its wreckage tumbled to the little Colorado below into the cavernous mouth of the Sipapu. The wisps of mist still drifted by, the soft gray mists that were now the spirits of the dead. But now there was another wisp among them. That's technically how this book ends. Now I will give you the epilogue that explains a shit ton. Okay? That is, so we cut to about a year later. Devin is walking with a cane. He has been practicing walking since his car crashed, and he has been in intense physical therapy using a wheelchair, but he will walk again through his physical therapy. But he is walking through this canyon searching for remnants of Kelly. No one has seen her since the crash. Her body was not found. Tony's body was found. Hers was not. So there is that inkling of she survived, or maybe she was like, Devin's looking for any inkling of Kelly. He searched everywhere for her throughout the nation. But anyways, he's walking with a cane. And he's sitting down and he's finally letting go that maybe Kelly was right. Maybe she did go back to her past life. Maybe there was something to all of this. And as he's reflecting on Kelly and the woman she was and everything she said, and he never took her seriously and he should have believed her, you know, he's kind of doubting himself, but at the same time, he's like, maybe this young woman shows up. He's like, Dr. or Dr. whatever. And he looks and he goes, Kelly? But it's not Kelly. She looks like Kelly, but not Kelly. And it is a young Native woman. And she's like, I was a nurse during your whatever rotations, you know, it's so nice to see you again. And she's a little grown up, you know, she was a little nurse during her clinical rotations, and now she's a little bit older. And he's noticing she looks so familiar. She looks so familiar. And they are talking and reminiscing, and she's hitting on him. She's obviously very into him, and he's kind of checking her out. He makes the notations that he notices that she is of a mixed ethnicity. She is half Native and probably half white, the way she looks, because she looks like Kelly, but then she's also of Native ancestry. And as they're kind of hitting on each other, she's talking, and this bracelet's just jingle jangling. This silver bracelet is jingle jangling. And he's like, do you mind can I see that bracelet? And she's like, oh yeah, sure, for sure. And he looks, and it's the exact same bracelet that he bought Kelly. Okay. How does this girl have it? This girl goes on to say, this belongs in my family. It's a family heirloom. It was my great grandmother's. And she was from a Comanche tribe nearby. Her name, and he goes, let me guess, Blue Beads. And she's like, how did you know? And that's when Devin probably looks at the camera and goes, the spirits told me. Like, oh, that's the end, y'all. Devin, remember, okay, Devin, the medicine man, said that he was the father, like greeted him saying father of whatever. And Kelly realized Devin's not meant for her. Devin's not meant for her. Devin's meant for her children. Devin's meant for her lineage. Devin's going to be a part of her family, just not with her. And then the bracelet, and then, okay, hold on. The silver hawk coming out the sky and the black beetle was Tony, whose reincarnation was Broken Claw, coming out of the sky. White Wolf. Oh, wait, hold on. I totally omitted White Wolf's point of view on this. I was so wrapped up. Let me take a step back and give you the closure of White Wolf. White Wolf comes back to his time. He says he saw the silver hawk coming out of the sky. He saw blue beads, but he came back empty-handed. He falls to his knees in his warrior regalia to the medicine man and says, I failed. He is crying. It breaks your heart reading it. Breaks your heart. But of course, as he is crying, sobbing, a little hand touches his shoulder and says, why are you crying, husband? And he turns around, and it's Blue Beads. She is awake. And he sobs, and he holds her, and he gives this amazing love declaration. And it's so sad, and again I cried. Because as he is sobbing, again, I just think it's so powerful to see this strong leader of a man allow himself these emotions. He is not stoic. He is not quiet. He does not swallow his pain. He is breaking down in his warrior regalia again. It's just such a powerful scene because it shows that he is a strong warrior in so many ways. And as they walk to check on their son wakes up and says, Mama, Daddy, where are we? And so they reunite as a beautiful family. Tears are shed. Mother, father hold their child. They are saved. And it's amazing. And this is an amazing book. Book talk could never. I'm going to have to wrap this up pretty quickly. I'm running out of data on my phone and I can't delete any more stuff. So do know I just think this is an amazing book. I think this is an amazing story. The fact that so many lesser stories are praised on, again, book talk and social media, as if Penelope Neri is not world building and writing the shit out of this book. My God, that was me recapping it. Imagine if you read the motherfucker. Okay, like I said, I've got to wrap up. I don't have enough storage space, but do know I love this book. This is my favorite book that we have read so far. The bar has been set even higher, as if Desert Captive was not the best. This, I think, tops Desert Captive. I think it does. Okay. I will see y'all all, hopefully in a few weeks, with more storage space. Okay? Because our next book is going to be such a detour from this one, but I will tell y'all more about it next week, okay? So, enjoy the rest of your month. Have a good Thanksgiving. If you're watching this around Thanksgiving, give your Native friends a gourd. I don't know. Happy Native American Heritage Month from a white lady on a YouTube channel. If you see a Penelope Neri book, go buy it. It's never going to disappoint. All right, I'm out.